Bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a Friday. We're getting ready for the weekend with Atlanta United in action, with a whole bunch of teams around MLS in action, with teams in the USL Championship, USL League One. Everybody's in action this weekend. Serie A's back in action. The Bundesliga's back in action. The Premier League continues on. La Liga continues on. Everything's nuts. That's what this weekend is going to be. And we'll be, at least some of us will be at the Benz for a game that Atlanta United's a little desperate in, where they have not picked up a win in a little while. They get a couple of home matches to try to solve this after a week of kind of normalcy, where you have a normal training schedule, and we'll see what kind of impact that has. There's also rumors. We'll get into all those as well. Tons of different things. People are already complaining because we started a little bit late. I see how this goes. A little bit of a problem on the Spreaker app side of things. So for those of you who are joining us on Twitch for the first time to listen live, hi, this is what we do. If you want to watch us in the mornings, you can. Unfortunately, the show won't be live on the app this morning. It won't be live on soccerdownhere.net. It'll be posted to podcatchers afterwards. But if you're here and you're normally there, you've already figured that out, and you saw our tweet. So that's why we got a little bit of a late start. Technical difficulties. Not John's fault for once.
What?
I know, it happens. I mean, unless you screwed up Spreaker as a whole, which would be kind of bad. I hope not.
Yeah, really? Then Spreaker comes calling. I get a knock on the door halfway through the show. Excuse me, this is the Spreaker police, sir. We'd like to have a word.
I hope that doesn't happen. That'd be bad.
That would be bad.
Did you watch Copa Libertadores last night, John?
Bits and pieces. I was drifting in and out because the boss, the 6 months of sitting, caught up with her last night, as it has caught up with me. And so we had to escort her upstairs because of major back pain. And so when I wasn't trying to cater to the boss's needs that she needed to have heating pads and things like that, I did drift in and out and catch some of the Copa Libertadores. So what's the rundown from last night? Other than the great effort from Defensa y Justicia.
Well, I think the Argentine clubs, with all of us, me included, everybody questioning their ability to perform with no matches, they were singing this. Racing wasn't. They lost. They had 2 minutes of just horrible madness where everything fell apart. They were pretty good outside of that. Defensa y Justicia, with their first Libertadores win, a 3-0 win. River got a draw in Brazil, which is a good result. Boca went to Paraguay, and after all of the controversy, they get an early goal. They go in the second half. They beat Libertad 2-0. Really, really impressive from the Argentine teams, with no games between the mid-March, when everything stopped in South America, and now. And the teams they were playing had been in league action and it had matches. The story, though, as big as that was, the story was not that. The story was Independiente del Valle of Ecuador spanking Flamengo 5-0. And it wasn't Ecuador, but that is the biggest loss, tied for the biggest loss ever, of a continental champion playing in the next year's competition. The only other one that was also 5-0 was in the old CONCACAF Cup days when Pumas beat Olympia of Honduras in like 1989. It's never happened in the Champions League in Europe. It had never happened in the Libertadores before. It was a pounding, and Dome Tarrant, formerly of New York City, is the manager for Flamengo. He started slow, picked up a lot of steam. They had been on a great run of form. They had a loss in league play on the weekend. And then they go to Ecuador and get destroyed. Normally, because they're in fine shape to qualify, they're going to get to the knockout stage. Normally, a loss would not be as big of a deal. You add in the fact it's a Brazilian team. You add in the fact that South American patience is usually very thin. And you add in the fact that it's a historic loss. And Dome Tarrant's seat might have just gotten really, really hot. Nutso. Just absolutely nutso. Don't know if he's getting fired. That's the thing, is it feels, in a normal sense, no, you're not going to get fired over one result. It's such a bad result, and Brazilian football's so crazy to begin with. I'm not ruling it out. I think it would be very early to do that, but I'm not ruling it out. Flamingo's had a lot of other issues as well. I mean, it's not just Dome Tarrant, but wow. He's going to have a good result in league play this weekend if he doesn't get fired. I'm going to tell you that much, because if he loses 3 in a row and they're in the way that it's been, it's going to be horrendous. Byrne said River looked good. Boca not so much. Del Valle looked great. I didn't get a chance to see as much of the River game. I was watching Defensa y Justicia, who looked great. They were playing Delfín, a lesser team. This is Defensa's first time in the Libertadores. They had lost their first 2 games narrowly, 2-1. They get the big win here. I think for them, if they can at least get into that third-place spot and get into the Sudamericana, that's a good result for them. And Hernan Crespo took over there, and he's had a couple of managerial stops. Not a lot. He had worked in Parma's youth teams. He had went to Bonfield, didn't do all that great there. Came into Defensa in January and has been outstanding. I think he had 1 loss outside of those 2 Libertadores losses since he took the team over, and really pushed them into a much better league position. So maybe Hernan Crespo is a guy you need to look at as an up-and-coming young manager to keep an eye on. Boca and Libertad, that game was a bit of a slog at times. Boca looked disjointed, which is what I expected from the Argentine teams. I didn't expect anybody to really look good with no matches, but they did enough. And Libertad looked like and they've been playing matches, but you're talking about a pretty big difference in competition level. Libertad looked like a team that was about 2 steps slower when Boca was on, and you can't play at that level if you're not. You just can't play like that. Tito Villalba started for Libertad, had a couple of chances in the first half. Second half wasn't too involved, to be honest. He's got 2 goals and 3 assists on the season for them. I think he started 3 of their last 6. He started about half of their games. He's played in maybe 2/3 of their games. He's got, probably with this, and including Libertadores into it, a little over 1,000 minutes this season. It's about what it was last year for him in Atlanta, and it's at a lower level of competition, in my opinion. So it just hasn't really clicked for him just yet. But again, you had a huge stop in the season, and that's going to affect everybody. If you watched Libertadores, would love to hear from you guys what you thought of it. Other stuff around the world before we jump into the weekend in MLS. Mezzano shared this. A couple other people shared it as well. This really strange German match that finished 37-0. It was kind of hard to follow the story of it. Have you seen this one, John, or do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it was. I think it was in the 11th division of German football, and the team that lost 37-0 fielded a minimum of 7 minimum of 7 players. That's the minimum that you could do. So they ended up just fielding a team of 7 players, and apparently every time there was a kickoff, the team decided to just basically, the first time they yielded basically to the touchline, and then the team scored, and then they just ended up standing around for most of the rest of the match. It was very, very weird.
Yeah, the team that they were playing, Holdenstedt, SV Holdenstedt 2, things got complicated because that team, the team that won 37-0, had been in contact with an opponent infected with COVID-19 in a previous match. Now, again, this is where we get into this whole conversation. There has not been transmission that has been reported anywhere in the world of COVID from one player on one team to a player on another team in competition. The instances where we've seen teams have issues, it has been internal. It has been through training, through travel, whatever. It's been inside the team. It hasn't been a situation like this. So the team that's playing Holdenstedt's second team saw that they had played a match, an opponent was infected. They played against that person. All the players of Holdenstedt had tested negative for the virus. The team, SG Ripdorf, didn't feel that it was safe, and I guess they only had 7 players who volunteered to play.
Yep.
They said if they hadn't played, it would have been a $235.88 fine, a €200 fine for abandoning the match. They didn't want to do that. So the 7 players walked off to the sideline first. The other team didn't really understand what was going on, as you would expect. The team that basically gave up didn't want to risk anything, they said. They said they just stood around. There is no perfect solution for it, and we went down this route. We wished Holdenstedt no harm. This feels like a massive overreaction to me. The players who played had all tested negative. They had played against somebody who had tested positive after a match. There was no infection on the team they were playing. It's a silly story to begin with because it's a 37-0 where one team doesn't play, and it's a silly overreaction in my mind. I understand the fears about this, but this is the kind of thing that makes it worse when there's nothing to go on with it. There's just nothing to go on to say that you played against somebody who tested positive, so now all of your team is sick. That's going back to March and the reaction to Rudy Gobert. I mean, we know more than that now. They all tested negative. Like I don't know what else you're supposed to do, and I'm sure the Holdenstedt team was probably like, "Oh, okay, this is how we're going to be. Fine, let's score as many goals as we can." Like I don't know. It's a really strange story. I hate that it happened, but it feels like a massive overreaction. I just don't know what else to say.
Yeah, no, I think I'm right there with you. It just seems that, I mean, when you read all of the information that was put out, and my source of information for this was looking at the Guardian story. So, going through it, reading it, and to me, it's just like, okay, yeah, I thought it was an overreaction, and you end up getting this 37-0 result. I mean, there really isn't a whole lot you can say from my point of view other than, it just seems like you guys had your information wherever you got it from, and I think that it was a massive overreaction, and you end up with a result like this.
No, I mean, they had the information. It's not anything like that. It's just there's nothing to show that because somebody played in a match against somebody who had tested positive after that they're positive. And they all tested negative. So, I mean, again, the studies are there to show close contact and everything, the CDC and the World Health Organization has recommended about this, and things that are at high risk and things that are at low risk, and this just makes no sense.
Yeah.
All right, so we caught up on the comments. Pacine says, after watching the end of All or Nothing and then watching the 2 new episodes to take us home yesterday, I realized that I may have a moderate to severe soccer problem.
No such thing.
No, that's not true. I watched the 2 episodes to take us home, and then I watched 4 games of Copa Libertadores back to back to back to back. So, yes, I have that problem, too, and welcome to the club. That's what we do around here. I haven't watched the rest of All or Nothing just yet. I need to watch the last episode that's posted right now. Take Us Home's amazing. The way they condensed the season into 2 episodes, the way, all the little storylines that went into it. Keeping Calvin Phillips, that little story was great. Winning the title, the reactions from all the fans that they'd followed in the first season of it. At home watching, the scenes outside of Elland Road after they won, the players realizing that the fans were outside and the players were inside watching the game, and the celebrations. Not going to lie, tears in my eyes watching it. I was so happy for Bielsa. I'd already known this stuff had happened, and I was so happy for these people. Yeah. It was very cool, and it was exactly that feeling that those of us who have this moderate to severe soccer problem have, and why we do have that problem. Because this game is about love, it's about passion, and that was it. This is a team that, people like or don't like, but that story is universal. I mean, you have a manager who is a visionary in a lot of ways and hasn't won a lot of stuff in his career. He's had a massive impact on the game as a whole. He hasn't won a ton of stuff. He took a job that a lot of people thought was impossible. He got Leeds back into the Premier League. That's a great story. A guy like Calvin Phillips, a local guy, he gets to celebrate that and be a massive part of it, and he pledged his loyalty to the club when he could have went elsewhere and made a whole lot of money. It was an amazing story, and the reaction from the fans, the reaction from the players, the reaction from everybody within the club, Very, very cool. I mean, Victor Orta seems like he is ready to run through a wall in good times and bad. He's an amazing figure in it. I'm happy for the owner who stuck with it when people had balked in the past and left or cut everything back. They found a way to do it and make it work. It's a great, great story. And if you love the game, watch that whole series. Watch the first season, go through the pain of the end of the first season where it did fall apart, and then watch these 2 episodes where they get in. It's amazing. It's one of the best, if not the best, soccer series I've ever seen.
Yeah, I still have to watch episode 9 of All or Nothing, and the Take Us Home is still on my list. Yesterday for me, it was watching River Plate and Sao Paulo go back and forth. It was catching a little bit of Independiente del Valle in Flamengo and having Guarani and Tigre on late night, in addition to trying to flip using this bad boy and trying to find stuff that I can watch, because they had the Liga Femenil on, Tudane, and then they had the Liga Ascenso on after that. So it was a busy night while I was running up and down flights of stairs.
Bernd Erzberger going back to Dome Tarrant. He said, I said it the day FDB got fired. Tarrant will manage Atlanta United when it's all over. Still say that. I don't know if he will this time around, but I would not be surprised to see him back in MLS, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him here. I think he's that good of a manager. I like the way he sees the game. I think the way he sees the game is in line with what Atlanta United wants to be, and he would be a great fit. I wonder how he would be accepted after leaving NYC, and he left. He wasn't fired from NYC. They were the best team in the Eastern Conference last year during the regular season. He left. He wanted more, and he felt like he wasn't getting the support from the club that he needed. If he goes to Flamengo and gets fired quickly, I wonder what the reaction would be, and I wonder what the perception would be. I don't know. I really don't have an answer to that because it's uncharted territory for Atlanta soccer to be in that kind of situation and hire somebody in that kind of place. But we'll see if it comes up. He should absolutely be considered. If he is available, he should be considered. I think he's that good of a manager, and he'd be a great fit. Forecard, I know Brazil is not normal. This is absolutely true, and that's why it's so hard to predict. I did not see the fans after the last game at the airport. I have seen the shots of River arriving back in Argentina. I saw the fans outside of the stadium at Defensa with banners, with flags. That was very cool. It's just, it's such a weird situation. The Libertadores, talking about passion, the Libertadores is, the most intense competition in the world, in my opinion, because of the fans. So it's very different right now. It has a very different feel. It opens itself up to some of these kind of strange results, and we'll see when fans can come back. We don't know when that's going to be, and we'll see what kind of impact that has. But right now, I think the smaller teams that would be in disadvantages where they go on the road into these crazy environments typically are going to have an opportunity to pull some upsets. And maybe that's what helped the Venezuelan teams in their last round on Wednesday, where these are underdogs. These are big underdogs. But you're not dealing with the cauldron that you normally do going into some of these places. So I'll be curious to watch this over these next few match days. I'll be curious to see the South American qualifiers, because those were announced yesterday as moving forward. FIFA will make European clubs release players as normal to South American national teams, and that's going to start in October. So that's another thing for MLS to look at as they are making their schedule. You have a lot of South American national team players in Major League Soccer, and if they're called up, they will have to be released. And I would assume, because of the way the schedule is going to work for MLS, and we haven't seen it yet, I would assume that they're going to play through the international break because they have to try to get these games in and get a playoff in before the end of the year. Teams are going to be missing players because the South American qualifiers are moving forward.
Yeah, and so when MLS comes up with, I want to see how the scheduling is and how all of the machinations are going forward, because I'm a schedule nerd. I admit it. I'm the guy that
you're a schedule nerd. What is a schedule nerd, John?
I want to see how things map up, so then I can look at the context of teams and players and all that kind of stuff. I want to see how everything blends, and it's like, okay, so then so and so won't be here, but they can fly back here. I'm the guy that looks at travel and sits there and looks at all these kind of different ideas as to how things can how things can work and how they may not work and things like that.
That is some weird, wild stuff. That is funny. I did not know that would be so funny.
Yes.
I don't get it.
No, I'm the guy that will sit there and I'll map up starting 11s, and then it's like I'll do if-thens and all this kind of stuff, and I burn through legal pad paper like nobody's business, especially when you get later in the year when the games matter. I'm sitting there going, okay, well, see, we won't have so-and-so, so that means that you could have this, and this. I'm that guy.
You're the only guy like that, I guess. I've never heard of this, and that makes no sense. Good luck with that.
I'm a schedule roster guy. I admit it. I'm a schedule roster.
So now you're a schedule roster guy, not a schedule nerd. I got nothing. We're going to move on because I'm confused, and it's going to give me a headache this morning. Burned, yes, it was a cow pasture in Paraguay, absolutely. And Tito, along with, I think, Libertad as a whole, looked kind of lost. I would agree with that. Gareth Bale is spotted in London. The deal is nearly done, it sounds like. Fabrizio Romano has it as, here we go. Both have left Madrid. They're flying to London. It sounds like they've been spotted. Deals completed. Paperwork signed. 1-year loan for Bale. Permanent deal for Sergio Reguilon. Medical's already done. They were done in Madrid. Announcement soon. Bale's joining till June of 21. Reguilon will be signing on a permanent deal. The buyback clause that Manchester United balked on with Sergio Reguilon is in place with Tottenham. It's a 45 million euro clause. Real Madrid can bring him back. So Tottenham would make, I think, around 15 million euro on the deal if that happens. Looks like it's done. So it should be announced anytime. Anytime now, Gareth Bale will be back in a Spurs jersey, which is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Gonzalo Higuain has been officially honored by Juventus as no longer part of the club, and thank you for your contributions. And now he is in Miami training. There are pictures of him doing that. He's not been announced just yet. Could be today. But he's training. It'll happen. It's done. When he plays, it won't be tomorrow. I would assume maybe next weekend, depending on how they did the timeline of whatever quarantine he has to do. But he's training, so I guess maybe sooner. I don't know. But I don't think it's tomorrow because I don't know how that would work timeline-wise if it's supposed to be a 10-day quarantine. I don't know how he's training. So now I'm completely and utterly confused. Maybe he's training on the side, away from everybody, but in a Miami shirt. We'll find out. But I'm not expecting to see him tomorrow. I'm not expecting to see him until next weekend at the earliest.
As of 9 o'clock this morning, Inter Miami did come out with the official announcement of signing him as a designated player.
Okay, well then it's announced. When did that happen?
9 o'clock.
Oh, while I was fighting Spreaker. No wonder I didn't see it. Anyway. Burns says about the story in Germany, it's not a story in Germany. It's only a story here. So I kind of would have assumed that. It's a dumb little thing, and I think the team who lost 37-0 was being silly. Just me. Mm-hmm. Lots of comments on that. Rope started watching the lead series on Amazon. Got to the press conference with Bielsa after Spygate. Yeah, that was wild and nuts and crazy. KFC says, speaking of Germany, saw some of an interview with Gio Reyna, Adams, Sargent. It got static at one point, but nice to see them. So you're starting to see now, I think, with ESPN bought into the Bundesliga, attention from ESPN on the young American stars there. That's awesome. I love that. It's a great storyline for them. They did a great feature on Gio Reyna. They will be covering these guys quite a bit, definitely on the soccer side of things, but maybe crossing over into the Sports Center and general conversation side. Wish they'd look at the league in their own backyard a little bit more too, but that's just me. I'm just saying. It'll be great for the Bundesliga in this country. They'll get more exposure, I think, in general. Even though they won't have as many games on ESPN, they'll get more exposure overall from being part of the ESPN family of networks. I think it's helped Serie A. I think it will help the Bundesliga. Having somebody like Derek Ray associated will help them a ton in terms of credibility. It's a great fit. So I'm excited to see it. Going into the season, I don't really know how to feel about it other than Bayern's going to win the trophy. Beyond that, I don't really know how it's going to look. And I'll be interested to see if we get any weirdness. if any teams step up and challenge that we're not expecting, can RB Leipzig stick high in the table without Timo Werner? Is there somebody ready to come in and replace him straight away? Dortmund, what do they look like this season? It's a weird feel because I feel like with the two leagues starting this weekend with Italy and Germany, Italy feels more open than it has in a while. And maybe that's because Juventus is kind of going through at least it's not a rebuild, at least a shift in the way that they're going to approach things. It feels like they're moving away from the megastars and trying to build something for a longer haul that will get them where they want to be, which is a Champions League victory. I don't expect that this year, and I expect that shift could have a couple bumps in the road. That could open a door for Inter. That could open a door for a Lazio. That could open a door for an Atalanta. That could open a door for a Napoli. I think Milan might not be able to get to the door just yet, but they've had a great offseason, and maybe they can push into that. It feels like there's more storylines in Italy right now than in Germany as to how the season could go. And I want to see what storylines emerge in Germany as the season starts.
Looking at winning outright, no shock from Bet365. Bayern is a 1-7 to win outright, but then you have Dortmund at 6-1, Leipzig at 16-1, Borussia Mönchengladbach and Leverkusen are at 50-1, and that's your top five.
Ragamuffin with a Premier League question: if Leeds doesn't beat Fulham, would you be worried? I wouldn't be worried because there's still 36 games to go, but I'd be surprised. I think would maybe be the better way to put it, because Leeds has beaten Fulham recently, and the teams aren't all that different. I think Leeds has improved, and I don't know if Fulham really has from what they were coming into the Premier League. So they should win. If they don't, I would be very surprised. But I won't be worried just because there's so much time. And, for Leeds, a successful season's staying up.
Yes.
I think they have the potential to be higher than that. I think they have the potential to be in the 10th place range. But if they're anywhere up, it doesn't matter. As long as they survive, I think that will solidify them, and then they can make that push. The only question for them is how long Bielsa stays. I mean, he's not a guy who generally stays somewhere for a long period of time, but this feels a little different. I mean, he's a little older. I don't know if he's out looking for another crazy project to take on. I think he feels like there's still room to grow with this one. He's put down a good bit of roots in the club. I think he might be there a little while, longer than we expect. But honestly, I don't know what that is. If they have a good year and feel like there's more for them to do next year, I could see him sticking around at least one more.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's the biggest question hanging over Leeds is, okay, if he does decide to go, because he could. I mean, he could say at the end of the year, even if they have a good year, you know what, I've done everything. I don't have anything else to give. Then what? Then what direction do you go? The good thing about Bielsa's time in places, generally, hasn't always been the case. But if you look at where he's been for a year or two, and he's actually put down some roots and had some impact on the way the club operates, because he's not just looking at the team, he's looking at the training facilities, and Leeds has upgraded a lot. He's looking at the way the club functions. He's doing all of those different things to make the club be in a better place. Leeds will be in a better place. And so many times, I mean, his time in Mexico, where he was a sporting director at Atlas and then managed and then went to Club America for a short period of time and didn't like the way that club was structured and didn't like the way it was run and didn't get much time there either. The roots that he planted didn't just help Atlas during his time there. It helped the Mexican national team. The 2006 Mexican national team had 8 players that Bielsa had either identified or brought up through the youth part of Atlas, because he went on this wild, big scouting mission to go out and find, talent like he had done at Newell's Old Boys. So he put Atlas in a better place. He put Newell's in a better place during his time there. He put Vélez in a better place during his time there. So Leeds will be in a better place because he was there, but they have to be thinking about, okay, if he leaves at the end of the season, who do we get? Who's going to be the manager? How do we continue? Because you can't just stop what's worked. Even though it's a different manager and they're going to have their own different spin on it, you can't go get a bunker and counter coach now. That's not going to work with the team you've built and the club you've built. So you've got to be thinking, all right, what direction do we go? That's the only thing hanging over it for Leeds for me. I think they're on the right path, and I think they stay up. And 12th feels like where I would put them right now. If they can finish 12th, that's a really good year. But as long as they stay up, that's all they have to focus on this year.
Team that you really need to worry about outside of our discussions is West Ham. Week 1, they lose to Newcastle 2-0. Here's their run through the month of October. They have Arsenal this weekend, Wolves, Leicester, Tottenham, Man City, Liverpool, and then on November 7th, they get Fulham. They could be 0-7 heading into November.
Eek. Brutal.
Yes. So West Ham, it was a struggle for them last year to stay up. You want to talk about a struggle to stay up this year. It wouldn't be just the struggle bus. It'd be the whole struggle bus garage right now.
Yep. All kinds of stuff coming up in the Twitch pitch this morning because there's all kinds of stuff happening at the moment. Walchara asks about the Marcelino Moreno updates. All the reports out of Argentina are that the deal is done. $7 million is what's being thrown around there. Some have said they've heard less. I've seen 7 fairly consistently. Looks like a 10% buyback, or not buyback, sell-on clause for Lanús if Atlanta sells Marcelino Moreno after he's here for a period of time. That's fairly typical. Nothing really crazy about that. It's 100% of the pass, so it would just be 10% that would go to Lanús in terms of a sale. The loan with an option to buy of the goalkeeper, Novo, is still in effect from what we're hearing. I don't know timeline in terms of being announced. He's not in the country yet. Neither one of them are. I would assume that's going to take at least a day or two to sort that out. You would have medicals either there or here on either side of it. So it might be early next week before it gets announced because it might be early next week before they're here. But all of the reports are that it's done and it'll happen and should be announced very shortly. And Lanús fans are sad about losing a player who has been at the club since 2013. I mean, joined as a kind of older teenager. It's a pretty unique story where he came from a very small club and went to Lanús, took a little bit of time to settle, didn't fit with the previous manager, sent out on loan to Tacheres, and then came back and then fit with the current manager there. And he credits that current manager for giving him the confidence to have this breakthrough season that he had last year. And he had been trending that way. It's not like he was not playing, and then boom, it was growth. He's a little bit of a late bloomer because he was coming from the far west of Argentina, not from the Buenos Aires area. It's an area where players are often overlooked. Teams will send scouts out there and look from time to time, but it took a while for him to get identified. And he has just worked himself into this position, and it's been really impressive to see. So I think it'll be a great fit. I'm excited for that to get announced and excited for him to get to Atlanta and have an impact on this team because I think he will. They've been training since early August. So the questions like we've had about Jurgen Damm and Kubo Torres and fitness won't be as much of an issue for Marcelino Moreno. Match fitness is a different conversation because he hasn't played since March. But they've been training for a pretty long period of time here. So his basic fitness should be pretty good. That puts him in a very different conversation about how quick he can get on the field. I think he can get on the field fairly quickly. He won't be 100% in terms of effectiveness straight away because he hasn't played in a long time. But he'll be fit enough to play and start to shake that rust off a little bit. Frank de Boer, the next manager of the Netherlands, is Shiva's question. It's sounding like it, and it makes a lot of sense when you really get down to it because he's got the experience from Ajax. He's got the experience as a player with the Netherlands. He's got that experience as an assistant with the Netherlands national team in a World Cup final. He's available. Ronald Koeman is in Barcelona now. It fits. It really fits well because he could take over today if that's the decision they make. And I think that's what's probably going to happen. I'd be surprised if it doesn't at this point. Yeah,
and I know a lot of folks are looking at calendars and things like that for possible matchups and friendlies and irony and things like that. But no, it just seems
say
all
what
those
it is.
Huh?
Not everybody's looking at calendars because we're not all calendar nerds or schedule nerds like you. Say what you're talking about.
Well, didn't I see that there's a proposed matchup between the Dutch national team and the Mexican El Tri?
You saw it because, yes, it's scheduled.
See, schedule nerd.
But, jeez, John. Netherlands and Mexico are set to play October 7th, 2:45. So, yes, people think that's ironic because it'd be two former Atlanta United managers facing off if Frank de Boer is hired. And, again, I'd be surprised if he isn't at this point. So, we shall see what happens there. Jason Nix on the Bundesliga, and we're about to get into your MLS weekend here in just a second. Couple of updates on how people are seeing the Bundesliga this year. Nick says, I don't think RB Leipzig and Dortmund challenge as closely this year. I feel Bayern pulls away again, not just win it late. Johannes says, Dortmund will be a contender. Holland for a whole season will keep them in the race all season long, I believe. I hope Bayern still win it all, but Dortmund will contend. Interesting. That's a story I'll be looking for. Bernd gives us a link on the fantastic interview with Matarazzo as well on Banter. He's an American guy who coaches at Stuttgart. That hasn't been a big story. I believe he's the first American to manage a Bundesliga team. I don't think he's the first American to manage a German team, but I think he's the first to manage a Bundesliga team. And it's not getting a whole lot of play here. I wonder if it will with ESPN involved. I'll be curious to see. Now, Burned on just the basics of the Bundesliga and what the stories are over there right now. He says it's not that big of a deal in Germany that Bayern has been winning the league. The Bundesliga is very popular, high attendance everywhere, good TV ratings, popular with young people, et cetera, et cetera. People cheer for Bayern in Champions League, even if it's not their team at home. That's interesting. That's probably very unique. I know that doesn't happen in Spain. I know that doesn't happen in England. I know that doesn't happen in Italy. I don't know about France. I can't really say for sure. I'm assuming that it doesn't. That's really interesting, Bernd. I did not know that. He said it's just different. Obviously, it doesn't sell internationally. That's clear, but I think that the structure, Bernd thinks the structure in Germany, everybody's okay with it. He said it's more popular in Germany than, let's say, Serie A in Italy. He says in Italy they have problems, attendance and financial, which the Bundesliga doesn't have. That's 100% accurate. Bundesliga is run well to function as a national league. It's not their fault that the EPL has much higher TV revenue. It's not. The Bundesliga is the most stable top flight in the world. Stable financially, I think, because they're successful. Even though you're going to have, Schalke has financial problems. Everybody's going to have some team with financial problems right now, but they seem to be the best at it. England has the most money coming in, but it feels very top-heavy. Germany, in terms of the financial stability, doesn't feel as top-heavy. It doesn't feel like there's quite as much movement. It feels a little more stable. I want to, and now that it's on ESPN Plus, I want to follow it a little bit more this year. It is a league that I haven't followed as closely, and it's a league that I want to spend a little more time with. But as somebody who's not, really attached to a team, it's been a little hard to get sucked into it because it feels like, okay, when is Bayern going to clinch the title? And that's hurt it probably from a neutral perspective. It doesn't hurt it inside of Germany, but maybe it does hurt that international perception a little bit. I'll be curious to see how it goes with ESPN. I think ESPN will help in this country at least. It's felt like the Bundesliga has grown in interest, and maybe it's because of the young Americans going over there too. But ESPN could kind of put it over the top a bit and give it more attention.
Yeah, Matarazzo, first even American born and raised Bundesliga manager. They have to make that differentiation because of David Wagner
right.
Being German born, who got 8 caps with the national team.
Yeah, because he's an American citizen. Wasn't Wagner's? I can't remember if it was his mom or his dad was German. Played for the national team in the Steve Sampson days. Okay, let's get into MLS because this is a packed show. We got Mike Conti joining in about 15 minutes. We've got Doug Robertson joining at 10:30. Busy weekend in MLS. We're going to run through it kind of quick with our juice boxes. Starts tonight. Seattle hosting LAFC, and it looks like a toss-up.
Pretty close. Sounders at a plus 137 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. LAFC is a plus 160, and your draw is a plus 301.
I think Seattle wins it. I do not trust LAFC right now at all.
Nope.
So I think Seattle takes care of their business here. The early game on Saturday, Sporting Kansas City hosting FC Dallas, and I'm surprised by how out of whack the numbers are.
Sporting minus 154. Dallas is a plus 391, and your draw is a plus 307.
That's an appealing number for Dallas. If it was against somebody else, it probably wouldn't be as big of a number, but I'd be far more tempted to take it. Even though that Houston game still sticks in the back of my mind with Kansas City is, man, they might slip up here. I think they're a better team. Dallas has been playing well, though.
Yeah. I got to go with Sporting here. I think Sporting gets the Duke.
I honestly wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't put anything on it because.
Oh, I'm not putting anything on it. But
I know you're not. I'm saying what I would do. We're talking about juice boxes. I wouldn't do it because I'm not 100% convinced by Kansas City because of that Houston game. That still sticks in my mind that they could slip up from time to time. I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas pulled an upset here, but I don't feel good enough about it to make up a crazy juice box flavor to throw on it. So no, I'm going to avoid the whole thing completely. New England and NYC, at least according to BetMGM, it is a complete and utter toss-up.
Fairly close in the composite, too. The Revs are plus 154, NYCFC is a plus 160, and your draw is a plus 256.
I like NYC on the road with that kind of number. If Shooter McGavin's watching, he's probably yelling, but I think NYC wins it. I think NYC is the better team, so I think they find a way to get it done. I do want to see if the Lee Win acquisition helps New England deal with the loss of Carlos Heel. I think it can, but how long is it going to take to work? That's the question that I have. But I think NYC gets it done here, even on the road. Red Bulls, Cincinnati is at 7 o'clock. Same kickoff time as Atlanta, Miami. Cincinnati's a big underdog.
Red Bulls minus 169. FC Cincinnati a plus 451. And your draw a plus 311.
Give me the cranberry, mango, pineapple juice box. I like mango. I like pineapple. I don't like them paired with cranberry. That feels like a bad combination that somebody would do in some weird like graphic with palm trees on it. Give me Cincinnati with that funky, strange juice box to beat the Red Bulls because I don't trust them.
Yeah, I look at the Red Bulls and I'm like, I was looking draw, but I'll put an aloe flavored juice box on the draw there.
I like that one more than the other big potential upset, at least according to BetMGM, of Columbus and Nashville.
The Crew minus 152 in the composite, Nashville plus 432 right now, and your draw plus 278. I
like Nashville. Columbus is missing players, and let's see how they're officially listed here. It's not updated yet. Questions about Darlington Nagbe, questions about Lucas Zelarayan, if they're going to be available. If they are not, you might want to revisit this number and get one of those skunky juice boxes out and throw it on Nashville. If they're in it, not touching it because I don't think there's any value in it. But if you're missing Nagbe, if you're missing Zelarayan, that might be one that you set a reminder for 6:30 when the lineups come out.
Yeah.
And if Columbus looks like a piecemeal lineup, you might want to go with Nashville there. But I'm going to wait and see what the lineup looks like first before I make a decision. Also at 7:30, D.C. and Toronto. D.C. is the biggest home underdog I remember seeing this season.
Yeah, no doubt. Plus 316 in the composite. Toronto FC on the road a minus 119, and your draw plus 269.
I generally like home underdogs. I don't like this one. If you have to put something on Toronto, pair it up with something else. But nah, don't even get squirrely about it with DC. No, just don't do it. Orlando is not a home underdog as they host Chicago.
Orlando minus 118, Chicago a plus 305, and your draw plus 276.
Pair Toronto and Orlando up. That'd be the pairing I would go with. Chicago will be all right. I don't think they'll be all right on the road in Orlando. I just don't. Houston, without Albert Ellis, hosting Minnesota. And before we get into this real fast, the reports are on this Houston deal with Albert Ellis going to Boa Vista, less than $1 million in a transfer, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And less salary at Boa Vista for him than what he's getting in Houston. He wanted out, and he was willing to take less money to get it. The club, I believe at different points, had bigger offers on the table for Albert Ellis. To get to this stage, because I believe he's in the last year of his contract, and that's why you're not getting much, because Boa Vista could have played hardball and said, well, we're just not going to sign you. We're not going to sign you. We will sign you on a pre-contract, and you can join us in January, but we're just not going to do it now. I guess this was all they could get. They should have sold earlier. They really messed this one up. But now how do they deal without him as they host Minnesota? They are the favorite.
Plus 110 in the composite. Minnesota United plus 220 in your draw, plus 271.
I like that Minnesota number. With Ellis gone, with a little bit of the turmoil with that, Houston might be in flux just a little. That plus 200 number on a Minnesota team that can score goals, I would go Minnesota. Real Salt Lake, a big favorite at home against Vancouver at 9:30.
Minus 189 in Vancouver is a plus 449 with your draw plus 359.
I don't trust Vancouver enough to go underdog here, and I definitely don't trust Real Salt Lake enough for that big of a negative number. So running away in the other direction, screaming. LA Galaxy is a home favorite against Colorado, and this one feels about where it should be.
Minus 108 for the Galaxy. Colorado a plus 268 in your draw, plus 276.
Yeah, I think the Galaxy is a comfortable favorite here, and if you're looking maybe for a three-way dance with the Galaxy, with Orlando, with Toronto, maybe that's the way to go. It's not going to be a huge return, but it is a little more of a degree of difficulty there because it's 3 wins.
Parlay.
San Jose and Portland is at 10:30.
San Jose plus 139 at home, Portland plus 175, and your draw plus 268.
I can't figure either one of these teams out. I just can't anymore. San Jose is all over the map. Portland is all over the map. I still think Portland is a very good team. I do not have enough guts to pick either one of them here because I don't know what they're going to do. Take the draw, I guess.
Or avoid it completely and watch.
Well, yeah, you could do that too. I mean, we have to do something here, so take the draw. Montreal hosting Philadelphia, and finally, the Union are not being disrespected.
Oh, my God. How long has it been? Since, 1972 that the Union have been disrespected?
Yeah, it's about 40 years before they existed.
The Impact, plus 234. Philadelphia, plus 106. And your draw, plus 262.
Yeah, take Philadelphia if you want to put something on that one. Take Philadelphia. Montreal's going to be missing Rudy Camacho because he decided to punch a man in the knee, which was just silliness. Stupid. Cost them the Canadian Championship. Cost them a spot in CONCACAF. Cost them probably this match too. Stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. Anyway. All right, that is your run through the MLS schedule. Let's get caught up on a couple other bits of news before we move on. On the college soccer front, you will remember that we talked about it last weekend. Myself, Jessica Charman, we're going to call the Chattanooga-Georgia State women's match. It didn't happen because of coronavirus. Chattanooga would have been their only match, and they were not able to play due to contact tracing. I don't believe anybody actually tested positive, but due to contact tracing and caution, they did not play that match. Florida postponed their fall opener at Missouri due to positive tests among 3 players and then quarantines for the others who were around them. 2 Big 12 games have been postponed because of positive cases and limited rosters. There was another one, Missouri State and Little Rock. This is going to happen in college soccer. It's going to happen in college football, too. It's going to happen in any college sports this fall. Just be ready for it. I'm waiting to see with on the men's side, what we get out of the ACC especially, because you have a lot of Atlanta United potential homegrown signings that are going to be playing in the ACC this fall, and how many games are they going to get to play? What's the schedule going to look like? And are you going to have some of these types of cancellations because of testing and quarantines? Because it's a different conversation entirely with the college athletes.
Yeah, and we're experiencing it also on the high school level, and that's what I've been up and running up against the last handful of weeks. And that's the thing, is that for both fans of high school and college teams and the players and the programs and all this kind of stuff, is just be flexible. And you're seeing teams that will come up with a matchup and they'll come up with a game on like 2 days notice. So just because something doesn't happen doesn't mean something else isn't in the pipeline. You won't have another matchup squared away to get something done as a placeholder. So, but the biggest thing is just when you're following your favorite team, regardless of what sport we're talking about here in the fall, just in the summer, just be flexible, because what you see today when it comes to what they may be doing may change, and then something else may happen. But it's a lot of flexibility. You've got a lot of folks working really hard to try to get reps regardless of what the sport is.
In Italy, Parma has been taken over by an American ownership group, the Kraus Group. They bought a 90% stake in the club. This is a club that went bankrupt in 2015, and they had to go back to the 4th division, and they won their way up to Serie A in 2018. That's unbelievable. This group, the Kraus Group, is based in Iowa. They own convenience stores. They own real estate. They own 2 Italian wineries. They also own the Des Moines Menace, which plays in the 4th tier, their USL League 2, and there's talk that they could move up into at least USL League 1 here pretty quickly. I think it's the stadium they're trying to get sorted out.
Yep.
So this is a really interesting takeover. They got it for a pretty good price. I mean, the talk was the club was valued in around the 100 million euro range, which isn't a whole lot. And they were a big club. I mean, they won 3 European trophies in the 90s. Can it get back there? It's going to take some investment, but that's a steal of a price, in my opinion. That feels like a good growth opportunity. And if you're looking at somebody who's got that kind of portfolio, you're looking for growth opportunities. It seems to fit.
Mm-hmm. And that's what good businesses do. You look for growth opportunities, and Kraus, they saw something. And if you haven't seen on social media, the changing of the logo on the laptop, that's kind of symbolic. So it was pretty funny, but yeah.
Explain it for people who are not seeing it, por favor.
Okay, so I'm trying to tease it so people can go watch it themselves. But
we're not getting any clicks from them going to watch it. Stay here.
Well, no, but after the show's over, they can go watch it later. But
they have to write it down.
Apparently, I don't know if he was a Juve fan or just understood its place, but there was a big Juve sticker on Kraus's laptop. And what he did is he tried his best to peel the whole Juve sticker off of the laptop casing, and it wasn't cooperating. So most of it came off, and he took his Parma sticker and he went bang, and it tried to cover up as much of the Juve sticker that couldn't come off the laptop as possible. So it was a nice gesture on his part to try to cover up his Juve following in the past.
See, that's why I want you to explain these things, because your play-by-play of somebody peeling a sticker is gold. I hope you guys had a better day yesterday than Josep Bartomeu of Barcelona.
Oh.
It was not a good day for El Presidente of Barcelona. He is set to face a vote of no confidence from the club's members. The campaign group got the number of votes by a large margin, 20,000 votes. The club announced that they got 20,687. They had to get to 16,500. Now what happens is the signatures are examined. They're counted over the next 10 days by a panel comprising a rep from the club, from the Catalan Soccer Federation, from the campaign group who proposed the vote. If the votes are valid, then a referendum has to be held within 3 months. Then 2/3, 66.5% of the club's 150,000 members need to vote against Bartomeu and the board to force their removal. Should the motion go ahead, he would be the 3rd president in club history to face this vote of no confidence. Nunez in 1998, Laporta in 2008. The vote failed to pass in both of those. I mean, he's out in March anyway. There was some pressure on, like, hey, dude, you should just walk at this point. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to be gone anyway. Do we need to go through all this? Then there was more that came out. Like about an hour after that, Kike Setien, remember him? He was fired after they were humiliated in the Champions League. Setien and 3 of his assistants announced that they are suing the club for failing to fulfill the terms of their contracts after being sacked. Joint statement from Kike Setien and the 3 assistants released on Kike Setien's official Twitter account. He had only received written notice of the termination of his contract 2 days ago, despite being sacked on August 17th. He has not received any compensation from the club since being sacked. His 3 assistants had not received any compensation, but they had been offered a future relocation inside the club. So Barcelona, just to recap the week they've had, they debuted their new kits, which are okay. They won a friendly. Luis Suarez went to take an Italian test and passed it, but Juventus went and signed somebody else instead, so they might not be able to get rid of him. They have about 75 different players they want to sign, but they can't sign anybody because they can't sell anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Messi dragged them on social media in an interview. They kept Messi. They've got a vote of no confidence coming up. They're being sued by their former coach and 3 of his assistants. You've got Lyon's president out there saying, yeah, they've said they can't pay any money. They don't have any money.
They could lose Messi for, was it 2 weeks because of international play?
Well, I mean, the international break, yeah. I mean, but that's how it always works. That's nothing new. He plays for Argentina all the time. And the league, I don't think, is going to schedule games during the international break. They'd be foolish to because you have so many players that'll be playing. Because the European teams are playing, too. It's not like the South American teams are playing outside of international dates. They're playing on international dates. That one's actually nothing new. It's everything else that's going on. So, yeah, Barcelona's a mess, and it's bad times. We talked about the situation with Tottenham. A couple other bits. This might help Barcelona. Liverpool, reportedly, according to Sport in Barcelona, have contacted Barcelona to inquire about the signing of Dembele. They're prepared to take him on loan and willing to pay a compensation amount. So now people are calling up Barca like, hey, we know that you're really stuck. We'll take this guy. Yeah, we'll just take him on loan. We'll pay the salary.
Yeah, this is like hearing Wimpy from the Popeye cartoons to gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. So we'll see what happens with Barcelona. We're going to get Mike Conti on the line, but John, while we are preparing for that, is going to tell us about our good friend Steve Apolinski in Decatur, GA.
I could do that. Apolinski & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. Wrongful death and serious injury attorneys. If this is a conversation that you need to have, you can have it with Steve and his lawyers at Apolinski & Associates. A couple different ways that you can do it. You can give them a call, get a free consultation, 404-377-9191. You can shoot Steve an email directly, STEVE at aa-legal.com, or you can go to the website at aa-legal.com. You hit enter, you hit the arrow button, whatever device you're using that moves the screen forward, and you can have a conversation with a chat window and a guy in a chat room. 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you, Chris Hutchison, for always clarifying that for me about how long it takes to go around the sun. Recognized as Legal Elite, Georgia Trend Magazine top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. It is Apolinski & Associates, LLC, for wrongful death and serious injury matters, 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama. The website is aa-legal.com.
All right, let's see if virtual producer Jack can do a better job than he did with Spreaker this morning, which seems like it's not Jack's fault. It seems like it's Spreaker's fault. But, yeah, we'll get that. We'll have the podcast up for you here at some point. All right, let's see if we can get Mike Conti on the line. Doug Robertson will be joining us at 10:30 to talk about Atlanta and Miami. But let's see what our friend Mike has to say first. What's up, Mike? How are you?
Hey, guys. What's going on?
Not too much. Getting ready for a busy weekend. It feels like every bit of madness that can happen in the soccer world is trying to happen all at once, which is fun. We'll have some madness to deal with at the Benz with a team in Atlanta who is at least rested for the first time in a while.
Yeah, and I think it's a big deal, don't you? I mean, Glassy really made a big deal of it yesterday. in his media availability, and really all the players who spoke yesterday too. Barco, Escobar, Josetu, they all really talked about how, hey, it's the first consecutive days off they've had since the Orlando tournament. And Glassy said, I actually got to coach these guys for the first time the other day, which it's not going to hurt, obviously. So it helps. Miami has a similar benefit of rest, but I think it's going to help Atlanta United a little bit more, especially because they're the home team. And I don't think there's much doubt now, based on what we are hearing from the players and the technical staff this week, that Atlanta United has a pretty big chip on their shoulder. And I think they're going to be eager to go out and try to disprove the doubters a little bit. So we'll see. I think it's a fascinating game. I think it's becoming a little bit of a derby now. I think it's becoming a rivalry. Yeah. First two meetings were chippy, and we could get that again tomorrow. So I think it's going to be compelling. And I'm going to be curious to see what response, if any, exists for Atlanta United, because as Barco said yesterday, all the excuses are gone now. You can't blame the rest, can't blame the travel, can't blame any of that. No more excuses. Got to do it tomorrow. Let's see if they actually do.
Two-part question for you, Mike. I'll save what's on the grill for later. But
okay. You already know. We talked about it Wednesday.
Well, I know, because I get to find out about reverse searing and all that other kind of stuff. All right, so what concerns you the most about Atlanta United in this particular segment, and what are you most excited about in this particular segment?
Segment meaning the next three matches. This one, Dallas and Chicago.
Yep.
Concern would be, I think losing Jürgen Damm is going to be a setback, because I think we were seeing a society develop on the pitch between Lennon and Damm. Now it's going to be Escobar and Lennon, and that's fine. Like, I don't think you're diminished or suffering with that, by the way. I just want to make that clear. I was just intrigued because I thought you had some real positive momentum and some chemistry building between Lennon and Damm, and now this is a setback. That would be my concern. What I'm most looking forward to, I think, again, I just want to see the continued fight in this team, because they are fighting. They absolutely cannot concede the first goal anymore. They just can't. It's proven now. It's not outlier performances. It's not aberrations. I mean, they cannot, especially against a team like Miami, that'll foul the crap out of them after they get the first goal. So as far as what I'm excited to see, I want to see the fight, because I think we've seen it. You came back, you got the equalizer in Orlando. In Miami, you got an equalizer. In Nashville, I can't remember if they got we talked about this Wednesday. I still can't remember if they got an equalizer, if they were down 2 and then got one back. But they are fighting back. They're just running out of gas. Now, I think with the tank replenished a little bit, with the benefit of playing Wednesday night at home as opposed to on the road, which is a huge, huge difference in my opinion, and then getting an extra day of rest between Wednesday and Sunday as opposed to having to turn around and play Saturday, I think the tank might be a little more replenished. And when they do get into fight back mode in the final half hour, there might be some more to it. That's what I'm anxious to see, because I think this is going to be a season, guys, where the roster where it is and the injuries that have taken their toll, nothing is going to come easily for this team. I don't foresee them having an easy win the rest of this year. I think they will win quite a few matches the rest of this way. I don't think any of them will be easy. So I'm just anxious to see them build a little bit of confidence and a little bit more of a belief, and belief is a word that Stephen Glass used a lot yesterday, a belief that, they are going to be able to be threatening in the final 30 minutes of a match, because honestly, they haven't been since the Saturday before Labor Day down in Orlando.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's hard to be threatening in the last 30 when you're just sucking in air trying to keep moving and your legs are jello. This is one that I know a lot of people have zeroed in on Miami's physical play, and they're going to be physical if Atlanta gets a lead or not. That's just their style of play. They're disruptive, and they do get stuck into their tackles, and they like to try to intimidate the opposition. And Atlanta's going to have to deal with that, and I don't think you can really expect a lot of help from the referees. You know, the thing that stood out to me from the comments yesterday were that this team felt like one that sounded like they were ready to fight. Like
yes.
they sounded angry. They sounded like embarrassed isn't the right word. It sounded like the pride was shaken a little bit.
Jason, I think they're tired of everyone telling them how bad they are.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's what it comes down to for me. It's not necessarily like a chippiness, like they're going to go out and they're going to physically fight people. But I think they're sick and tired of being told by – heck, I'll just quote Glassy verbatim. I think they're sick and tired of people on other teams telling them they're not playing well. I think they're sick and tired of people in the media telling them they aren't playing well. And this was not said, but I believe it. I think they're sick and tired of their own fans telling them they aren't playing well. It's gotten so negative around here. And look, when you're one for your last 9, as far as one win in your last 9 matches, that's going to open the door to a lot of criticism. Mm-hmm. You know, Glassy said they haven't been great. That is correct. I think some people took his comments yesterday to believe that Glassy was saying they aren't struggling. I don't know how anyone could look at them objectively and say they aren't struggling. But some of what I'm seeing, and it's you know, it's on social media, which, you know, this can be a breeding ground for stuff like that, is just really, really toxic and negative. And I would not overlook that tweet that Franco Escobar sent out the other day either. So I think these guys are really sick of being told by people who aren't in the team, who aren't in the group, how bad they are. And that's where I get back to what I said when we started this segment, guys. I think they are really eager to quiet a lot of their doubters, at least temporarily. And one win or good performance against Miami on Saturday doesn't cancel out what has happened since July. But I think they're really over it. They're over all of this external chatter, which has gotten incredibly negative. And I understand where some of it comes from, but I think it's gone over the line a little bit. And I think that might end up fueling them a little bit tomorrow, or Glassy at least is trying to get it to fuel them tomorrow. A lot of times when a coach, a manager, whatever, in any sport, when they make a comment like they made yesterday, it's completely intentional and trying to send a message to your team. And I like the fact that Glassy's trying to defend his team.
Yeah, you have to.
A lot of people made a meal out of what he said after the match on Saturday, and was even asked by some of the reporters on the conference call yesterday, who are you calling out individually? And that's to say, I'm not calling out anyone individually. I'm calling out the group. As a group, we've got to be better. So I like the fact that you have an interim head coach right now who's got some fire and some passion and is going to stand up for his team. That's a guy I'd want to play for. And remember, right now, you know, probably Glassy's biggest goal, his biggest priority, is developing that trust and those open lines of communication between the players and the technical staff. Lines that make Frank was on his way out.
Yeah, and you know, Mike, as you were talking this there, I had 2 phrases that I wrote down: sick and tired, which you said, and then I'll show you. And I think that's kind of where we are right now. It's like, oh yeah, you think that? Well, I'll show you. And I think that seems to be the prevailing attitude from what we've heard this week.
I agree. And if that's what you need to do to give yourself fuel, then you got to do it. But the problem is now you do have to show them. You know, you do have to go out. Yeah. You got to do it now. And again, I'll go back to what Barco said yesterday. I don't think it was like a flip offhand comment. I think he meant it. The excuses are over now. And look, I've been on this show. I've said on the game broadcast. I've said on stoppage time. This team is struggling. They are struggling. If they take exception to that, I apologize. But I don't know how you can objectively look at what's going on and believe they are not struggling. But I think there are reasons for why they are struggling. It's not a deficiency or something that this player's doing wrong, that player's doing wrong, this coach is doing wrong. It has nothing to do with deficiencies. You've been dealt a really, really lousy hand by the pandemic and the resultant schedule. When you don't get an opportunity to train, when you have to do a good piece of business for the club and sell one of your designated players and try to fill that hole on the fly, when you bring in new players and kind of have to plug and play a little bit lineup-wise because you have injuries and suspensions, this is what is going to happen. Okay, it's not because you have bad players or bad coaches or anything like that. This is what's going to happen. So they're struggling, but there's a reason for it. And I think that's where I hope most rationally minded people are looking at the situation right now. Unfortunately, with Atlanta being such a big club, the spotlight's very bright on this club, and they are a little bit of a lightning rod for other people around the league to point to Atlanta and say what's going on. Probably in the same way that we're pointing at LAFC and saying, oh, what's going on over there? They're a big club. They're a lightning rod. So, what did Billie Jean King say? Pressure's a privilege or something like that.
Something like that.
Pressure's a privilege because Atlanta United's a big club. There's more pressure on Atlanta United than there is for the Chicago Fire or just to call out a team. There's more pressure in Atlanta because they're a big club with an engaged fan base. There's more pressure here in Atlanta. There's in a bunch of different MLS markets. So this is what comes with the territory, and you have to expect that you're going to hear some of the things you're hearing when, you've gone 9 matches and you've won only one of them.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would have inside the team has a problem with people saying they're struggling because they are. I mean, the results tell you they're struggling. Like, that's just accurate. I think where it's been weird is this idea that not just they're struggling, but people are dumb, people are stupid,
right.
People are starting to make bad decisions, these players aren't any good. It's going to that point, and it's like, whoa. The team has talent. There's no way you can deny that. The team has been built in a way that has had a lot of success. The team's having a down year. The team's missing their number one scorer. It's going to be hard to score goals, period. It just is. You go and you get Cubo Torres, he's new. He's had an up-and-down career. But you lost Joseph Martinez. You're going to have problems scoring goals. And when you're having problems scoring goals, and you combine that with making individual mistakes, especially on set pieces, you're making it harder for yourself. It's like the road became harder when Joseph was injured, and you're digging your own potholes in it with giving up those goals in the way that you are. The talent's not a question to me at all. But you've got to find ways to make it easier for yourself. And that's the thing this team has to try to do in these next 3 games, in my mind, is they have to make games easier on them. And that's not conceding early. That's not conceding from dead balls. It's not giving up a lot of dead ball situations either. And it's just growing in a game and finding those things that can build some confidence on the field.
Yeah, I agree. 100% agree. And I think, part of that comes with maybe playing a little more free. It's not that they aren't playing free to begin with, but you watch them sometimes, you just wonder, man, are they overthinking this? Are they overthinking that? Are they trying to do too much here? Is this guy holding the ball too much? Is this guy not shooting when he should? Yeah, things like that. These are all little things that I think can come good very quickly if you're playing from a position of a lead. I really feel very strongly about this. You get up 1-0 or 2-0 on Miami, it could become 5-0 all of a sudden. Because you have not, when did Pitti score the second goal against Nashville?
Kind of late.
86th-ish minute?
Yeah.
You've only played 4 minutes all year with a multi-goal lead?
Yep.
Really think about that, guys.
That's a grind.
So even when you're leading, it's only by a single goal, and the match is still on a knife's edge. In fact, I'm going to look that up as soon as we're off. I think that's a big stat. And I'm talking about all competitions. even in the Motagua home leg, I think maybe you had 25 some minutes with a multi-goal lead there because you didn't score until after halftime. So in all competitions, you just have not had a multi-goal lead. You have not been able to relax. And that makes it really well. Now hold on, Cincinnati. That might have been the first Cincinnati one.
Yeah,
they might have been up 2-0. Am I right about that?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, still, I mean, since
not for
July,
very long. Yeah.
Since still July, still not a lot of minutes.
No. And since July, you've only played 4 minutes with a multi-goal lead. In my opinion, that changes everything. I think you play way more free and relaxed when you can get that multi-goal lead. I'm not talking about 1-0. That, I think, is just absolutely imperative tomorrow. Obviously do not concede the first goal because I don't know if you have the faith and confidence that you can get 3. But I like your chances to get 3 if you can get to 2-0. I like your chances of getting 4 if you can get to 2-0, especially against a team like Miami.
Worst kept secret from the world of MLS is finally out, Mike, as of about 9 o'clock this morning. Gonzalo Higuain signs with them. League source confirms it's in the $7 million range, highest paid MLS player. Yeah. And arrived in Miami September 10th, underwent a physical, complying with COVID-19 requirements, including a quarantine of up to 2 weeks as he awaits the visa and ITC. Training on his own at the team's practice facility. This is courtesy of Michelle Kaufman at the Miami Herald. Not traveling with the team for Saturday's game, but could be available late next week. So Gonzalo Higuain, Blaise Matuidi, going to if you want to drop $165, Mike, you can get one of the legit name embossed kits for one of those two guys.
$165?
You can get Matuidi on the back or Higuain on the back, and you get the jersey for $165.
I don't have that kind of money. I know there was a little debate this morning about Higuain's availability, and some people were saying, well, he's not going to play for at least 2 weeks. That is not correct because he's been in this I know what people are saying, well, you got to do a 2-week quarantine. Well, you can break quarantine with 2 negative tests, can you not?
I don't think there's anything about 2 weeks. I think one story came out, and I believe it was Doug talking about if J.J. Williams came back to MLS from USL, that he would have to do 10 days. 10 days is the magic number I've heard. Now, Kaufman talked about a couple of other things. The visa, the ITC is no problem. That's the Italian Federation faxing something over. The visa is a question, and we don't know how long that would take. But, yeah, he's not playing tomorrow. I don't know how quick he can play if he does the 10 days of not joining the team. Because it's not a quarantine where he's got to, stay in a hotel room. It's not a quarantine.
No. He just can't be around other people.
Yeah, he can't join the team yet for 10 days.
Right.
So he can train, he can do all that.
I'm sorry, Jason. Miami did put a video of him out training, but not with anyone else.
Yeah.
Just doing some individual stuff. Look, I honestly, I think that's going to be a morale boost for Miami. Obviously, he's not going to play tomorrow. It's still a morale boost, though. And you're right, it is a poorly kept secret. We know this has been coming for a while, but you got to get a lift, right?
Yeah.
If you were to tell me that Atlanta United signed Gonzalo Higuain, even though I don't know how they make that work once Joseph comes back, but it'd be a big boost if I played for a team that brought in a player of that quality. That's huge. So that'll be a lift for them. And by the way, don't count out the possibility that I know this is going to be the third time they've met this year. Don't count out the possibility that Atlanta United and Inter Miami play again.
Yeah.
From what I have been told, and I know that, the final 9 matches have not been released yet, but from what I've been told, these are still going to be regional scheduling pods all the way through the end of the regular season. So
somewhat,
one
at
is
least.
to
I think
somewhat.
There's,
Well, thank you. Let me be clear.
You got to break it a little bit.
You're not going to play Seattle or Portland or Vancouver or anything like that.
And we're not going to play Orlando 10 times. So it's finding a balance.
But you could play them twice more.
Yeah, you could.
From what I've been told.
Yeah.
Orlando, Miami, I think you're going to see DC a lot. I think you're going to see Chicago and Dallas at least once. Wouldn't be surprised if you saw them again. Those are short flights.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised to see SKC creep in there. That's a short flight. That's what the league's looking at right now. They're still really trying to minimize the match day travel as much as possible. So don't count out the possibility that Atlanta United might see Higuain, and heck, might even see him in a play-in game. The way things are going right
That's
now,
true,
might
too.
even see him in a play-in game.
Yeah.
So, don't just think, okay, dodged a bullet, not going to see him this year. I think there's a pretty decent chance you are going to see him this year if you're an Atlanta United supporter.
One more question before we go, Mike, and it's a non-Atlanta Miami question. Bernd Dursberger from the Twitch Pitch had this for you. What do you think about more and more soccer in the United States being shown on streaming platforms, with the EPL with Peacock, with ESPN Plus, with CBS All Access, versus being on cable? Is that good? Is that bad? Or is it just a sign of the times?
Well, all three. I think you can make an argument for the good because people who are really passionate about finding a certain Bundesliga match or a certain NWSL match, or name the league, name the confederation. It's available to you, and that's really good news. I have said repeatedly, especially when it comes to MLS, that not being on linear television, still in this day and age, I think it's starting to change, but still in the year 2020. You need to be on linear TV to be considered a big deal, to be considered credible. And I hope MLS proceeds with caution with their next broadcast TV deal, that it's not just we're going to have all our matches on ESPN Plus and one on ESPN a week. I don't think that helps grow the league. There's a perception that if you aren't on linear TV, you aren't a big deal. So you got to be very careful about that. But to Bern's point, I like the fact that we have this selection, that we can watch any match pretty much from anywhere in the world if you have a computer or a streaming setup. That's a really good thing. And having more content is going to help grow the game in this country. And I think, too, look, I'm a 39-year-old. I mean, I don't share the brain of a 24-year-old who might consume all of his television via stream. I still have cable. I don't really want to have cable right now, but I have to have cable.
You need both, brother.
I did a medium step. I did.
Okay.
So I've had Uverse for a long time, and they're discontinuing it. So I moved over to the AT&T TV, which is streaming, but it's like cable. I mean, it's kind of that in-between side of things.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy with it so far.
I think YouTube TV is kind of like cable, too. Like, there are a lot of streaming services now that are replicating the cable experience. So I get that. It's probably all going in that direction anyway. I'm just kind of old school.
I like the AT&T. I'm very happy with it.
That's actually really good to know. Thank you for telling me that, because we were looking at doing a switch, and AT&T came out before they did the Uverse switch over to AT&T TV, and they were going to give us direct TV, but we have trees. And
I think they're going to start to phase that out too. I think they're putting all their eggs in the AT&T TV basket.
Yeah. But to Bern's point, just really quickly, I think from the MLS standpoint, really, really important, when you get this next TV deal, that you are on the same level as the NBA, Major League Baseball, the National Hockey League, where it's not an exclusively streaming deal. You know, if Major League Baseball is not going to stream all their games, and if the National Hockey League is not going to stream all their games, Major League Soccer should not do it either.
Yeah, because, I mean, younger demos consume their live events differently. They're the ones that are more mobile. They're, on their laptop or on their phone, but your older demos are the ones that are locked into that over-the-air linear concept of cable TV and those kinds of things. And I think that as you're trying to have these large demos coming for you, and that's what you're trying to get, it's the 18 to 34 and then the 34 plus, you're dealing with two separate ways to try to draw an audience.
Yeah, 100%, John. And that's the thing again. Like, I might be the wrong guy to ask because I'm out of the demo now.
I'm way out of the demo, brother.
Man, I love being 25 to 34. I was squarely in that demo, and I'm not anymore.
Man, now I'm feeling sad because I wish I was back in that demo. All right, so refresh everybody.
What Homer Simpson said, I'm a man 25 to 34. They'll listen to my ideas no matter how dumb they are.
That's true.
Nuts and gum together at last.
Refresh everybody on what your plans on the grill are this weekend.
Doing wings, going to try to replicate the lemon pepper wet, but I think I'm going to do the crickets recipe, not the American deli recipe tonight. But, I guess I got to be frou-frou. I'll smoke them on cherry wood and try to,
that's good.
Do a teriyaki glaze on some of them and try to get the glaze to stick. And me, like I always do 10 steps more than I need to. So we'll see how it turns out.
You got to do a cookbook, dude.
Well, John, if I did, I would have to confess to plagiarizing all the recipes.
Then it's the best 101 best plagiarized recipes ever.
That's the thing. Like, not a single one of these recipes that I do every week is my idea. Not a single one. I'm stealing all of them. I hope I'm doing a pretty good job, at least giving people credit, from where I'm stealing them. But yeah, no, I'm not nearly creative enough to come up with half the stuff I do on the grill.
Got to tweak it just a little bit to make it your own.
Yeah, you know what I should do? Just add a little more parsley. That's the Conti touch. He puts a little more parsley on it. There's nothing to the
signature
flavor, but
it's the parsley cookbook.
Exactly.
See, now I'm tempted to go get J.R. Cricket's wings.
Oh, see.
See, I might not even make it home. I might have to do that for lunch.
There you go. All right, Mike. We'll see you tomorrow. What's the broadcast plans for everybody?
Yeah, we're on at 6 tomorrow. Kickoff's at 7. We'll be on at 6. So yeah, I'm glad I remember that.
That's news for me.
Breaking news sounder.
I heard the promo this morning. Like, I guess we're on at 6. So we're on at 6, but the real pregame starts at 6:30, and we'll be on 92.9thegameradio.com, Sirius XM channel 157.
All right. See you at the building tomorrow.
Half hour earlier than you planned.
Yep. I'll change my notification on my phone.
See you guys.
See you, Mike. Bye. All right. Let's get into it with our friend from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Doug Robertson. He'll be joining us here in just a second. Make sure you're following him on Twitter at Doug Robertson AJC and on Facebook at Atlanta United News Now. And make sure you're a subscriber to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution because local media is very, very important to continue talking about these teams because not every team in the league has it. And luckily,
Hello?
Doug has had it, and there he is. What's up, Doug?
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. Just sitting here watching the U.S. Open.
Oh, very nice. I've got Argentine television on watching all the recaps of the Copa Libertadores last night. Who's your pick in the U.S. Open?
That is a really good – I don't really know. It's not my favorite of the majors only because the course is set up so hard.
Yeah.
Something in between like the Masters and the U.S. Open is what I prefer. But if I had to guess, I'll go with Justin Thomas.
So you like an 8-under or a 10-under finish as opposed to like +7 like they would do at Shinnecock?
Yeah.
That's too much.
Yeah, and then like the Northern Trust, I think there was like a 28 under, and that's just ridiculous too.
Agreed.
That was that's just not even.
Yeah,
that's putt golf. That's mini golf at that point.
Somewhere in between like a 2 under to an 8 under, I think is fine.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Let's get into the comments from yesterday from Stephen Glass from players. It had a different feel to it than I think. I mean, I can't think of another media availability that had that kind of feel because Atlanta's in a different situation they've been in. But what were your takeaways from it?
Well, how would you describe the feel? What was your take on it?
I felt like it was a team that wanted to prove itself. I felt like it was a team that, was angry about just everything. And they want to play better, and they want to not be in the situation they're in. That's the way I kind of took it, and we just haven't heard that before because they haven't been in this situation.
Yeah, I really don't know because I've heard this from them since they came back from Orlando. Basically, individual mistakes. We got to do these little things better and these little things better, and it just for whatever reason it's not happening. And instead of seeing improvement, it seems to be getting worse. As evidenced by the first goal within the first minute of Nashville. I do think that they want to play better. I think this is not the right word, but I can't think of another word. They're embarrassed about what's been happening in the games, and they want to improve on it. I'm just right now not entirely confident that they can, just because of the results.
So then, Doug, let me ask you this. When it comes to this season that Atlanta United has had, who has impressed you the most despite the wins and losses and standing in the East? Who's impressed you the most this year?
George Bello, I thought, is playing well. He's really improved a lot defensively. His tackling, I think, is amazing, particularly the past few games.
Yep.
I think Brooks Lennon has proved that he is a everyday player. I know that his stats aren't great, and he didn't have a very good game against Nashville, but nobody had a very good game against Nashville. Anton Walks, I thought, had been playing well until the Nashville game, and I think particularly with Lennon and Walks, those mistakes were just a culmination of fatigue, both mental and physical, from playing so many games in such a short time. But they've all, I thought, look good, and really, I hate to say it, but that's about it. Nobody's really stood out as being great.
Let's take a look at Miami. Not going to see him tomorrow, but they finally announced that Gonzalo Higuain has joined the team. What do you make of the signing and the numbers that are being thrown around? Over $7 million in salary on him.
Desperation is my first take. That's dead money. They're never going to be able to sell him and get that money back. You can't. Orlando has allowed a few fans in the stadium. I don't know about Inter Miami. Last I had read. So this is not a signing for this year. I guess that with 10 teams making the playoffs, they need to do everything they can to try to become one of those 10 teams, and they can. So in that aspect, it's a good signing. But to me, it's not even for marketing, because people can't even buy tickets to go in and see him right now. I think he's going to be a great player. The money is bizarre to me.
And then you pair him up with eventually you get him paired up with Blaise Matuidi, and is that dead money upon dead money for you as you look at both of those transactions?
Well, Matuidi's salary isn't anywhere close to Higuain's. Matuidi, I think, is a TAM deal.
Yeah, he is.
Right? So that makes more sense to me. And Higuain has had, whether this is fair or not, concerns about fitness and things like that in the past. Playing in the heat of Miami is going to be something very, very different for him when that happens next season. Again, I think both are great signings. The Matuidi makes a lot more sense to me financially than does the Higuain.
Yeah, getting him on a TAM deal, it feels very different. I want to get your take on comparing Miami and Nashville. And, it's not an expansion year like any other one that we've seen. But how do you feel like the two teams have done? And do you feel like one is separated from the other, or they're both expansion teams about the same?
No, it's interesting because at first you looked at what Miami was doing, and it was clear they had a plan. They were going to build around the young players. It was very similar to what we saw from Atlanta United and from previous teams. Going to build around young, mostly inexpensive South American players, throw in some good MLS veterans, find that good attacking player in Rodolfo Pizarro, but the results weren't happening. So then they added Matuidi, which again I think is a solid financial thing. Higuain, which financially doesn't make any sense, but I can see why they need it for results. Then you look at Nashville, and Nashville kind of seemed to be a little bit all over the place at first. They looked to be kind of more the Cincinnati or the Orlando model its first few years. You weren't quite sure what's going on. But now you can start to see a bigger picture with Nashville, and they're adding some younger players coming in, and they got their new number 9, who I don't know if he's available this week. I don't know if he's gone through quarantine yet. But you kind of like what they're doing too. I still think they overpaid for Walker Zimmerman, even though he's having a good season. But I like both plans. I think I probably like Miami's a little bit more than Nashville, simply because they can get some money back, because I'm always, for some reason, thinking about that in terms of investment and ownership. But much better plans than Cincinnati and Orlando, for example, in their first couple of years.
coming into this next chunk of games, and I asked Mike this same kind of question when he was on in the segment before, so let me turn it a little bit for you. If you are an Atlanta United fan watching this next chunk of matches, what should you be the most excited about, and what should you be the most concerned about, you think?
The most excited about?
If you were anticipating this next run of games and you're an Atlanta United fan, what should you be the most excited or the most looking forward to when it comes to this next group of games?
That is a tough question. Jurgen Damm, I don't think we're going to see him for at least a week, probably a couple of weeks, if they still don't know the extent of his hamstring issue. So you can't look at him. Eric Torres hasn't really made the most of his chances yet. I guess maybe Ezequiel Barco, to see if he can kind of become the spark that Atlanta United's offense needs. If he can prove that he can take coaching and fit within the tactics, I think that he's dribbled a little too much on offense and kind of affected what Stephen Glass is trying to get the team to do. I could be wrong about that. That's just kind of my gut. But I think he can become that really good spark on offense. And just, you want to see effort and you want to see enthusiasm from the players right now. Not to say that you haven't seen that before, but the players keep talking about we can do more. We got to have better attitudes. So I think that's what you got to look for. Because if you don't see it, then I don't think there's a whole lot of hope of climbing out of this hole other than by pure luck.
Shiva on Twitch watching along had a question. What do you think will make this team better right now?
What do I think will make this team better right now? Oh, my goodness. I think it needs some more time to work under Stephen Glass. I think it needs some more games or weeks where they only have one game a week to try to get a better idea of what he wants tactically and be able to work through it more than they've had these past few weeks. They need some fresh legs. It was obvious they were running on fumes against Nashville. If they end up signing Marino and the reports are that the deal is done, even though Atlanta United has not announced it yet, that could be an important set of fresh legs in the middle of the field for Atlanta United. I don't want to say that he's going to come in and suddenly Atlanta United is going to be a much better team than it's been, because I think that there are some core issues with this roster. But those are some of the things that I think to be excited about.
And then on Twitter, Nathan Pugh, as a part of our discussion on Twitter this morning, he says, I hope the play tomorrow night is at least fun to watch. I want the W, but at this point, entertain me. What do you think about something like that from the fans?
I think that is a little too much right now. I think that Atlanta United's best bet to win is similar to what Nashville has been doing, counter and set pieces. There's just not a lot of speed going forward. There's not going to be a lot of opportunities to pass teams to death into the final third and create goal-scoring opportunities, particularly without Jurgen Damm on the field. Defenses have plenty of time to get back, set themselves. So Atlanta United is going to have to try to win by counterattacking, and I know that's counterintuitive when I say they don't have a lot of speed. That and set pieces. So right now, I just think getting 3 points any way possible is what you should be looking forward to.
All right, let's get into predictions. We have no idea what standings are anymore. It's been one of those years. Everything's been eaten by the coronavirus. Nobody had 4-2 last week. I know that much for a fact.
No.
I've heard that I was running away with the standings and that all of these should go ahead and give up.
I heard
that's what
opposite.
Jurgen is telling you that, and I have no background on it.
Yeah, I heard the opposite. So we'll all believe that we've got it right when none of us do. John, you're going to kick us off. What's your prediction for tonight? Or for tomorrow?
I'm breaking the glass for this one. I'm taking the hammer, breaking the glass. It is the Velvet Driving Slipper Lock of the Week, 2-1. I haven't used it in a while. I'm using it this time. I think that Barco gets one. I think that Cubo Torres gets one. I think that Miami gets one off a set piece. So 2-1 Atlanta United final.
Okay. Doug, what do you think?
I hate to be this guy again, but I think Atlanta United loses 1-0.
1-0.
I don't see them scoring, and I hate to say that because it makes my job more fun and slightly easier when they are scoring and playing well. But with no Jurgen Damm and just based upon what we're seeing from the past few games, I don't see it happening. And the set pieces, we talked about on Southern Fried Soccer, continue to be a gigantic problem for Atlanta United. And so I think that Inter Miami is going to get one off a set piece, and it's going to be a 1-0 win.
See, I'm kind of looking at it a little bit different. I don't think everything's fixed because I don't think it can be in 1 week. You get a couple of days off. You get 2 to 3 good training sessions. I do think they can correct some of the set piece issues. But I still think they're going to be – and I'm taking some of this from the tone from yesterday. I think they're going to be really aggressive. And that could lead to some goals, but it could also lead to some mistakes where they get caught in transition. And that's something Miami's very good at. Miami will sit a little bit deeper. And I think Miami will be playing a style, even though Gonzalo Higuain's not in the team for this match. They're going to have to change the way they play a little bit with him. Like, they're not going to be able to high press with him. It's not going to happen. He's not high pressing anything. So you've got to go back to that idea of dropping off and playing at the midfield line, setting your line of confrontation there in a medium block, and defending deep, and then hitting on the break. So I think they do that here. And with Atlanta being aggressive because they want to change the narrative, they want to put on a good performance here, they're going to maybe be a little too aggressive at times and make some mistakes. So I think there's going to be goals in it both ways. I'm thinking 2-2 draw. I think there's going to be some sloppy play from aggressiveness, not from tiredness. So it'll look a little different. But I think you'll see two teams that are trying to prove themselves. And maybe that cancels each other out a little bit here because Atlanta's not where they need to be yet. I do think Moreno will help a good bit in getting there, at least as good as they can be this season without Joseph Martinez. But he's not here yet. And I think Miami will be better with a true number 9 and leaning into this sitting deeper and playing a little more in transition style, but he's not there yet. So it'll be two teams that are still trying to find themselves that aren't quite there yet. So 2-2 is where I'm at with it. I know you've predicted your lineup on the AJC.com. What else do you have coming up the rest of the day and tomorrow?
Well, I do want to correct you on one thing. I think Higuain will high press a sandwich.
He might high press a cheeseburger.
Yes.
That has been rumored, allegedly.
All the restaurants on Deco Drive. Yeah, I think he might be a frequent. Be a frequnt visitor.
Is it more Cuban sandwiches or cheeseburgers in Miami for Gonzalo Higuain? We'll have to see.
I don't know. But I'll high press a sandwich too. So he and I are sandwich brothers in that regard.
That's accurate. I'll do it too. I'm in.
Right there.
Well, we're all waiting on Moreno to be announced, and I guess we got to caution supporters about that too. Whenever he is announced, it could still be quite a while before you ever see him play because he's got to get the visa, he's got to go through quarantine, he's got to start training with the club. I mean, it could be as early as, I guess, 2 weeks. If he were announced today, for example, before you would see him, and then as long as it took Castro, which was almost a month, I think, before he was able to get here. It could be a bit. So just don't get too crazy, kiddos out there. I'll have whenever the Moreno signing is announced, I'll have that, and then I'll kind of have a blog on why this signing is very important for some of the supporters who have kind of lost a little bit of faith and trust in Atlanta United's front office based upon what's going on this season.
All right, we'll be on the lookout for that. Southern Fried Soccer tomorrow night, since it's not a late game. I think we'll be able to get it in tomorrow night, Doug.
All right, that sounds great, buddy.
Cool. We'll be talking then. Thank you.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
Fairways and greens.
Make sure you're following him, Doug Robertson, AJC on Twitter, Atlanta United News Now on Facebook. Do you guys have questions out there watching on the Twitch? Since we're not on the app live this morning, go ahead and throw them into the Twitch pitch. We will be back on the app. We'll be back on the website with a live stream one way or another. The Spreaker app told me that they know the problem and they are addressing it and trying to figure it out. So we'll get it sorted out. It happens sometimes. Welcome to 2020 and technology that likes to make things a little more difficult for us. Couple things on Marcelino Moreno real quick. Doug's right. He's not going to be able to play immediately. I don't think it'll be like the Castro situation or the Josetu situation. The reports out of Argentina are that he would be signing and traveling Monday, Tuesday to the U.S. So if you – and I'm following from what Matuidi and what Higuain did in terms of their ability to – be active or somewhat active in Higuain's case quickly. I don't think it'll be like the Castro and Josetu stuff. There's not a lot of people traveling into the U.S. at the moment in terms of the visa situation, so it's a little bit easier to get the visa right now. That will help. He's also Argentine, like Higuain, so hopefully that will help a little bit. He's coming from Argentina, not coming from Italy, but anyway. If he travels, let's say he gets here Tuesday, and that's when you start your 10-day clock, it might be closer to about 2 weeks from today to where he can play if everything else goes the way that you hope. And he'll be a help, I think. I really think he will. I hate the hashtag blank replacement game. Yeah. I hate it with a passion because teams are not static. Teams evolve. Every team evolves. Thiago's not a hashtag replacement for anybody at Liverpool. He gives them a different element. That team can evolve and play a little bit differently, and we'll see how they do. When you lose somebody, you're not just looking at, I need a direct replacement for this player no matter what, because there's not one. Players are unique. Players are snowflakes. They're not like anybody else. Like, are there elements they share with other players? Sure. Are you looking for a certain type of player? Sure. Are they the exact same? No. So don't play the hashtag blank replacement game. Please. Let him be Marcelino Moreno. Let him be himself. What he brings to the table is a player who is very strong on the ball, very good in 1v1 situations, an extremely hardworking player, a guy who has, I think, worked himself into this position. He's a very talented player, but his work ethic is going to be something that I think Atlanta United fans will really love about him, which he can defend, he can drop, and he can do the things that are needed on that side of the ball. But 1v1, he's extremely good. He's a good passer. I think there's more goals in him. Lanús, he wasn't tasked with being the goal scorer. Neither was Miguel Almiron, by the way, and that one worked out. And no, he's not the hashtag Miggy replacement. He's been gone for a while. He's not the hashtag Nagby replacement. He's not the hashtag Pitti replacement. He's not the hashtag anybody replacement. He's his own man. And he's going to bring some different elements from all of them to the table. He's going to bring some elements that they share to the table as well. It's going to be fun to see him interact with this group. I think he is a good complementary player for a guy like Barco because they're both strong in the 1v1. That's going to take some pressure off of Barco. It's going to be harder to double team Ezequiel Barco. His movement off the ball is good, so when Barco makes a run, Moreno's going to go find the space that Barco vacated, vice versa. They're going to be able to build a connection fairly quick. The question for me is going to be, okay, you get that little connection, you get that little group working. Can you incorporate the right side into it? Can you get Franco Escobar, Brooksland, and Jurgen Damm when he's healthy into the mix to where it's not one side's doing this, the other side's doing this. They feel like they're doing two different things on different islands. Can we get that offense feeling more coherent? And that's going to take some time, and there's not a lot of time this season. That's a fact. Is he going to transform this team into the best team in MLS tomorrow? No, you're still missing Joseph Martinez. Goals are not going to be easy to come by. He makes them a better team because he's a better player. And there's just nothing wrong with saying that. Does he make them the best team in the league? No, because they can be the best team in the league with Joseph Martinez. He's not here. So they're going to have to find other ways to be competitive. And he will help do that. But he's not a hashtag replacement for anybody. And I think he will be a player that Atlanta fans will really enjoy. I think he's the kind of guy that it seems like, just judging from the reactions to Miguel's game, judging from the things when people get excited about Barco's game, and judging from the things that people said negatively about Pity Martinez, which I think was incredibly unfair. But I think Moreno will immediately become a player that the fans enjoy because of his work rate, because of his work ethic. And that's going to help him in the short term as he starts to build these connections on the field with players.
That was the biggest point that I've tried to tell anybody going forward. Let an individual be them. Don't compare them to someone else. The hashtag insert name here replacement, put that to the side. Don't use it. See this individual for what they are and what they can bring to the table on any given day. Understand that that's who that person is. They're not here to replace somebody else. Let them be the first them.
Yeah, because you can't be asking a player to be something they're not. Moreno's not Miguel Almiron. He's not Pity Martinez. He's not Darlington Nagbe. He is himself. And he's been very, very good. So let's let him be himself and blend into this team. Mm-hmm. All right, let's get on to the Twitch pitch and finish up a busy Friday show. We'll have the run-up tonight at 7 o'clock. We'll dig a lot deeper into this match. We'll get into some of the tactics of it. We'll look at what the lineups could look like. That's at 7 o'clock. That will be on twitch.tv/soccerdownhere. We'll hopefully be live on the app and on soccerdownhere.net. If it's not, it'll be posted as soon as possible right afterwards, and that's what's going to happen here. So, Shiva, Franco will have a good game on Saturday. When he is on, we will win. Something I noticed about what he said yesterday that jumped out to me, I do not remember an athlete talking about watching video back and noticing his own body language being an issue.
Yeah.
That was really perceptive because I've noticed it in the last game especially. I've noticed it at times, but I noticed it in the last game. And I thought Franco speaking on it and clarifying it shows that he is a leader. It did look bad at times in the last game, and it's frustration. And I get that. I understand that. I don't think it's anything other than frustration. But, yeah, it didn't look good at times. And that, if you don't understand that and you're playing next to that player and you see it, that can rub you the wrong way. If you're a fan sitting at home and you see it and you don't understand it, it can rub you the wrong way. I'm glad he talked about it. I'm glad he clarified. I'm glad he said that he noticed it. That's incredibly perceptive. I just can't remember ever hearing an athlete say that.
No, I can't either. And to say that publicly, to sit there and you notice something about yourself and you're going to work to change that, I thought that was a great stand-up move from Franco to A, recognize it, and B, say it publicly, because you never hear those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think he will have a point to prove tomorrow. I think this team will have a point to prove tomorrow. That's why I think it will be a different kind of match. They're not whole, and they're not going to be whole yet. Again, 1 week doesn't fix everything. But I think they will look different, and they'll be incredibly motivated. And even if it's a 2-2, I don't have a problem with – I don't think that's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
It needs to build. And you have to build, for me, to get to the last 4 games. You got to secure a playoff spot, and I think they can do that. And then you've got to be playing your best soccer of the year going into the postseason. So those last 4 games, you've got to be on a high and playing your best. So you go into the postseason, and you take what you can get out of the postseason in these single-game knockouts. But you got to be playing well then. You can't play your best soccer today because that's not going to help you in the middle of November when you're in must-win games. You've got to build to be able to play your best soccer in November. And you can't cheat to get there. You can't, and I disagree with Doug in this, and we've talked about it on Southern Fried Soccer. I don't think you get there by turning into a defend and counter team right now. I don't. I think you have to try to build to where you can play your best soccer. I know 2018, that's what Tata Martino did at the end of the season. I think that was his last roll of the dice. He didn't have anything else because he had tried for 2 years to make the defending good enough to win a championship, and it wasn't. And the Toronto game, I think, was the last straw for him. And it was, all right, it's time to do this because this is all we got left. And it worked, which was amazing. I don't think you can do that over 12 games plus postseason at this stage. Not when, big picture, you're also trying to build for the future. Because you are. Because you understand the situation this season. It's crazy. It's 2020. Yeah, you got all these games. You got an interim manager. You got an interim forward right now with Joseph injured. This is not your best version of yourself. And that's okay. You've got to build for this season to be able to play your best. You've also got to build for the future to be able to play your best. I don't think you throw that in the trash and get to a defend and counter kind of team. Ragamuffin was triggered by my use of the term snowflake. I could feel it as I was saying it. It's an expression,
Yeah.
and it's become a loaded word, which is funny. I'm joking with you, Ragamuffin, but it's become a word that has a different meaning than it does in that expression. So I'm thinking about like what's unique. What's unique? Snowflakes are unique. Oh, wait a minute. We can't say that word anymore. It's not good.
Raindrops.
Nobody's ever said a raindrop is unique. I've never heard that expression.
You got big raindrops, you got small ones. They're different sizes.
Thank you, John. I'll try to come up with a better one than that.
Just trying to help you out, brother.
Keep trying, please. 4-card, yes. Just stop the replacement BS. Hashtag replacement. Stop the hashtag replacement stuff. Shiva to 4-card talking about the casual fans may drop off depending on how many are out there. I think there's a lot of non-casual fans out there. And there's a lot of people who, when the team's playing well and the full stadium's open, they'll buy a ticket. If you open the full stadium right now, they probably wouldn't buy a ticket because the team's not playing well. That's soccer. That's sports. That's life. That happens at Boca. That happens at River. That happens at Juve. That happens at Manchester City. Yes, it even happens at the plucky upstarts Liverpool. When the team is playing poorly, sometimes people will opt not to go watch the team. But when the team starts playing well, everybody's back in the building. That's sports fandom. It's okay. It's not anything to panic about. But it's real. It's real, and everybody knows that in sports. This is part of the deal. Toto Dynamo is not a fan of Lanús, I have learned this morning. I do not know who his fandom is with just yet. Let me see if he answered my question because I threw it out there. Oh, he's a Bonfield guy. Okay, there we go. Well, we've got a Bonfield guy too, in Eric Remedi, so maybe that makes you feel a little bit better. We are building a little bit of a connection with Lanús, though. It's Miguel Almiron, now Moreno, now Novo. There's a young American in the academy over there who's turning some heads, just saying. All the Lanús players will be coming to Atlanta, and Toto Dynamo will hate us even more. It's all good. Sorry, Toto. Tesco is happy that Marcelino is short. He likes the short guys.
Well, there's an old Latin saying, "Parvus sed potens," small but powerful.
Okay, now you're going Latin on us this morning. All right.
2 years of Latin in high school, 2 semesters in college, and if I had decided to take the 3rd semester, I would have had a Bachelor of Arts degree instead of a BS degree. Insert joke here.
Okay. Yes, I'm not going to even go there. What is your hashtag salt replacement, John?
Hashtag nothing.
Air?
Unless it's hashtag pepper.
Pepper is your salt replacement. Because it's got to be something.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's the only seasoning that is out there outside of hashtag salt replacement. It would be hashtag pepper.
Well, no, pepper is your hashtag salt replacement. You're hashtagging too much.
Okay, well, then I'm hashtagging too much.
All right.
Piece of news that just came across from my friends at Global.
What kind of news is it?
Breaking.
It's breaking?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to judge this.
And it's news. From our friends at Global News in Canada, the U.S. and Canada border will remain closed until at least October 21st in order to slow the spread of the coronavirus, according to U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf. Wolf took to Twitter Friday morning to announce the border closure extension, which was set to expire September 21st. Quote, "We continue to work with our Canadian and Mexican partners to slow the spread of hashtag COVID-19. Accordingly, we've agreed to extend the limitation of non-essential travel at our shared land ports of entry through October 21.
Yeah, it's going to make the Canadian teams have to base in the U.S. Because they're not going to be able to go back and forth and even train in Canada. It's brutal for Toronto and Montreal and Vancouver, but it's the only way they're going to be able to finish the season. They're going to have to turn into the Gypsy Blue Jays. So there's no other way around it. I think that's what MLS was waiting on to finish the schedule because, like you said, it was supposed to expire on the 21st. If they decided to allow it or allow it in certain cases or whatever, then you're doing something different with the Canadian teams. Now, it sounds like, unless there's some kind of exceptions baked into it, which can happen because this is kind of a specific instance, they're not going to be able to train in Toronto. Let's take Toronto FC, for example. They're not going to be able to train in Toronto, stay at home, travel to the U.S. to play matches, play at a neutral site, and then travel home and train. They're not going to be able to do that, this sounds like. They would have to base in the U.S. for the duration of the season.
Yeah.
Unless there's an exception baked in somewhere, that's what they're going to have to do. And now I think MLS can finalize everything and move forward. And it absolutely sucks for the Canadian teams, and it's going to make things very difficult for them to compete this year. There's no way around it. But otherwise, they're not playing. I mean, there's just no other way to do it. That's just where you are. So we'll see what options they have and how they sort it out. Burned asks, do you think Atlanta United will have fixed its problems playing out of the back? I haven't been as hung up on that, and we've had this conversation a lot. Mine has been more of playing into the final third, but my question about it will be, have they figured out the times where they don't need to play out of the back? Have they figured out where they can play a long diagonal or play a ball over the top like we saw Remedi to Pitti against Nashville? Have they figured out to look for those more? And you got to get the movement to create those opportunities as well. That's what I'll be looking for, is not so much just playing out of the back, but have you added more variety into how you play out of the back? And just, can you move the ball quicker? It's been too slow, and it has to speed up. So I'm looking for the variety in the way they play out of the back instead of just being able to play out of the back, because I think they haven't been horrible in that. My issue has been more playing into the final third, and that's what I'll be looking for, is can they look more dangerous coming from the middle third to the final third? That's the number one thing I'm looking for against Miami, because I don't think Miami's going to press them up high. I do think they're going to start to step into this idea of, we're going to have a forward who we don't want running around pressing things because he's not going to be able to do that in this league. We need to manage his output, so where we try to trap teams, we're going to do it in different spots, and it's going to involve different people. I think they're going to start edging to that this week. So I don't think they're going to high press. So Atlanta will be able to bring the ball up. It's what you do with it once you get into the middle third. That's where I'm looking for. Shiva's talking about Marcelino Moreno, I'm assuming. Is he a designated player? I've seen people saying that there's no way he can't be a designated player. I'm not necessarily buying that. He will be at first because there's no reason to buy him down. You know, this is the thing you got to understand. Like, there are teams who have players who are designated players who, when they want to go sign somebody else, they can buy a designated player down. That's what Miami's doing for Gonzalo Higuain. They're going to buy down Pellegrini and make him a non-designated player, is my understanding here. No, Carranza. Sorry, Carranza would have been the cheaper one. But until you have to, there's no point in spending the allocation money. So he'll be a designated player at first, no question. When you hear the numbers, and what has been reported most consistently is a $7 million transfer fee and a contract that would take him through 2025. The reason why it's such a long contract is to be able to spread the transfer fee over the life of it. As we've talked about with how transfer fees affect cap numbers, you're spreading it over the life of the contract. That puts it down, depending on how this year is measured, because typically it would be a 5.5-year deal. Because the summer window, you're signing for 5.5 years. Now, here you're not, because you're signing for more of 5.25. If you can argue that it would have been 5.5 and it should be 5.5 for accounting purposes, that helps you a little bit more. It gives you a little more room to work with in terms of the salary. He's not going to be making $7 million a year. He might be making 3 to 5 to 6. I don't know. I don't know where the number is going to fall. It'll be a big raise from him from where he's been at Lanús. What it will be, we don't know. So he's going to be close. You might be able, because remember, he could be, even throwing Tam out of the picture, you could use the allocation money you have, which you've acquired a lot in the Nagbe deal and in the Gressel deal. You could use that to buy him all the way down under the max contract threshold to be a non-DP. You could do that. You don't have to right now, because unless you've got another move that's coming that would be a designated player, he can be a designated player right now. In the future, I think you're going to be able to buy him down for two reasons. Because of that, because it's not going to be too far over the threshold, and you'll be able to make it work. And two, that threshold goes up every year. It always has. So that maximum number that you can use TAM on, for example, always edges up. It's just over 1.6 right now. It might be 1.7 next year. It might be 1.75, depending on how the numbers move. So right now, he will be a designated player. Next year, he might not be. And if it's not next year, it might be the year after. And remember, you've got these U22 initiative things going on as well. You're going to have plenty of room to sign players. And this roster could look very different next year. I don't think he's a designated player for the lifespan of his contract. That's the marker I'll put down today, is I don't think he is a designated player for the whole time he is in Atlanta. I do not think that will be the case. I think it's going to be manageable enough to where you'll be able to buy him down at some point. And you might be able to do it for next year, depending on how the numbers work out. Sam asks, and Sam is a new subscriber on Twitch. Thank you, Sam, for joining us. Do you think Jeff retires after this season? I do. Yeah. I think it might have been even close last season. But he's been good, and I think he's important. I think he should be playing right now if he's fit, and I would not be surprised to see him in the starting lineup tomorrow. He can't play 3 matches in a week at this stage. But in big matches, I think he's vital, and he should be the guy. Now, you need to replace him in the long term. You need a number 6 to replace him in the long term, because he gives you things that Remedi, Mo Adams don't give you in that 6 role. But I think what we're seeing this year is him slowing down to that point that he's not playing regularly. So I do think he'll retire. I think he's going to go into coaching. Whenever that is, he might need time off and forget it. I don't know if that coaching is going to be here in the academy. I don't know if it's going to be back in California. I don't know where it's going to be. But he will be, I think, an excellent coach. And I would love to see him work in the academy, sent somewhere, and develop young talent. He's got a great brain for the game, but I think this could be it for him. He's going to, he's probably been thinking about that since he signed to come back. And it's just going to be, does he want to do it again? This has been such a crazy year that I think that could also add to it and make the decision that I don't want to go through a short off season and bounce back again immediately. He might not feel that he's able to do that effectively. And it could be it. I hope not, to be perfectly honest, because I think he's a very important part of this team. But I would not be surprised if he retired at the end of the year.
Selfishly, when he does retire, I'd like for him to stay with Atlanta United and be a part of the coaching staff here, work with the kids in the academy as a part of that for his first steps forward.
Yeah, selfishly, absolutely. But he might want to go wherever he wants to settle afterwards, and we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Pacine about Franco, he said, yes, instead of being mopey or stubborn, he shined a light on his own shortcomings, and I loved hearing him say it with his own voice rather than through written comments. I'm happy with both, to be honest. I think his tweet was no problem at all. I had no issue with it, and I like that his comments backed it up and echoed it. So Franco showed a lot of leadership, and whether he's got an armband or not, I think this week he has shown that he is a very important part of this team and the behind-the-scenes side of it. And he's stepping up and filling a little bit of that role that Leandro Gonzalez-Perez had. And I love that he said he'd be happy to stay here and play here throughout his career. I love hearing that from a player. So Franco Escobar had a great week off the field, and I hope that translates to a great performance tomorrow night. Sam is on board with it. Give Franco the armband. Ricky asked if Mesa's going to be back. He's fit, so another week of being able to train and get ready, he very well could be. And I've said it before, he's not a prototypical 6, but he has played the 6. And if you decide that the best group on the field includes Anton Walks as a center back with Miles Robinson, you could play Mesa as the 6. And make that work. If you have time to work on it in training, you could really make that work. We'll see. But he could also slot back in at center back, and you could go with Meza and Robinson, and Walks could get a rest because he's played a ton of minutes. You could give Robinson the day off if you're still worried about him, because I don't think a week fixes fitness issues with him and workload with him. You could say he's not going to play all 3 games, and who's better in this one? Let's give Walks the game, give Robinson the day off. Let's give Walks the day off on Wednesday. Let's give Meza the day off next Saturday. You could rotate it that way. So he's eligible. He's ready to go. We'll see if he gets on the field this week. Okay, other questions. Fingerprints would be another thing that is unique. Better than raindrops. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Kessie.
Nicely done.
That is very good. Yes, Strummer, I agree. And I was talking in a general sense about tickets. Right now, it's a different conversation about COVID. I understand that. I was just saying in general about buying tickets to a team that's struggling. Right now, it's a whole different conversation. I know. I gotcha. Pacine says, but casual fans also help provide money and atmosphere. We need them. Absolutely, you do. He said, in fact, you could argue that they are the mark of success. I would argue against that because I think you need the base, the hardcore side to be successful. If you don't have the hardcore side, the season ticket holders, the established group, you won't have the casual. I don't think you will. If you have that great season, maybe they come for a year and they disappear. The Hawks, for example, I think are a prime example here. They had the unbelievable year where they won 60 games, and it took a while for the fan base to catch up to that. And then when it started to trail off, they were gone. Nobody showed up. You have to have the base for the casual, I think, to stick, because that's the mark of success for me, is where you're turning casual to hardcore. And that's important. You do need casual fans, don't get me wrong, but casual fans aren't going to come to watch a losing team. That's just how it is. They're not. Yeah. They're not bought in the same way. I mean, if you're hardcore, you're going to be there no matter what, and you're going to be singing, and you're going to be chanting, and you're going to be sad after the game, or angry after the game, or ecstatic after the game. Or if you're Victor Orta from Leeds, you're going to look like the same in all of those emotions, because I can't decide if he's going to stab somebody after they do something well. He looks like he's about to fall over. It's unbelievable. But that's why we love this game. If you're a casual fan, you might not have that reaction in the same way. You'll obviously be happy if things are good, and you'll party and you'll do everything. But if things are bad, it's easier to walk away if you're casual. You got to have the people who stick. But you do need the casual, and that's the thing, Pacine. It's not like it's an either-or, but I think the long-time hardcore is more important because it's the base. That's what you always come back to. And if your base is very low, and I felt like this with the Silverbacks, and this was the challenge that they always had, was their base was extremely small. And when they would play well, or there'd be something that would draw people into the stadium, yeah, they'd get 4,000 people at that stadium, and it'd be full, and it'd be cool, and it'd be a cool atmosphere. But they didn't stick. There was no sticking, and it felt like the game was an event, not game 5 in the season. And that's what takes it to the next level for, I think, the people who are listening right now, because y'all are not casual. It is that day-to-day being bought in, following the rumors, listening to all the content, listening to what the players have to say, reading everything. That's what is needed everywhere. And when you see St. Louis with the number of season ticket deposits they've had, when you see what Austin has done with their season tickets, you have to have that. Now, Atlanta's special, Seattle's special, New England can be special in the sense that you can have the same number of season tickets as these other teams in small buildings, but the casual fans can take it over the top because you have room for them. The hard thing in a St. Louis and in an Austin is going to be you pack out the stadium, the casual fans can't come in. And as we've heard from so many people who have either converted from casual fans to hardcore fans of Atlanta United, or just talking to people who, aren't like longtime soccer fans and haven't bought into that level, they're able to go buy tickets to, a few games a year in Atlanta because it's a big stadium. You can't do that in St. Louis. And when you lose the base, there's nobody there to come in. That's the hard thing for the smaller venues, and I'll be curious to see how they deal with those things. So it's casual hardcore fans, it's a challenge to draw both. It's a challenge to keep both. It's a challenge to convert casual fans to hardcore fans. And playing well is a massive part of all of it. Toto Dynamo, our resident Bonfield fan, gotta love Vermetti. I feel bad for him, though. You guys are surrounding him with Lanús players. Toto, I need to know what you think about Albert Ellis going for like nothing from Houston.
Nothing.
That's craziness to me. Ricky asked about the young American at Bonfield, or no, at Lanús, sorry. There might be one at Bonfield. I don't know of it. I have to go back and double-check the name. He's in their youth system from what I read. I mean, this is all like third and fourth hand that you're trying to find out because you're not watching Lanús youth games right now. But there's an American-born kid in their academy. Novo was not the only one, and we'll have to see if he can turn into something. If he can, I assume that maybe Atlanta has a line in on him already because, why not? You've done a lot of business with Lanús, and it's a good place to go, it seems like. Sorry, Toto, it just is. So you keep doing business there. If this kid turns into something, you bring him in as well. Thiago to Liverpool is officially official. It is done. Jurgen Klopp had a kind of weird, funny thing this morning about it. Said you might want to turn your notifications on or follow the social media accounts or something. I still want to see how it works. I'm very, very curious to see how it works. Lots of different stuff, and I'm trying to finish up here. Toto says Meza can definitely play the 6. I would like to see it. I think it would give this team a different feel. Nix said, how many season tickets do you think St. Louis will release next year? 50,000 in deposits the first day. Great to see. Well, it won't be next year. It's actually going to be a minute. That's what's crazy about it to me is you got all these deposits with them not playing until 23. What size is that stadium? I don't think it's 25.
The Dome? Or
they're not playing at the Dome. The stadium that they're building.
Yeah, it wasn't astronomically
I mean, it's
big.
over 20, but I don't think it was 25.
Right.
You want to save a few to do group sales and day of the game stuff, but, I mean, you're probably going to do, I think most in those size stadiums are doing like 14. I think you're going to want to do more than that if you got 50,000 deposits. I'm thinking in the 17 to 18,000 range.
22.5.
Yeah, I mean, you're keep 4,000 separate? Maybe? That's going to be tough. I'll be curious to see how that goes. Strummer, I have not caught the Kalen Carr podcast yet, and I will do that over the weekend when I get to catch up on stuff. I've heard nothing but good things about it. And make sure you read Felipe Cardenas's article over at The Athletic about the soccer culture in Atlanta. Really good piece. I'd connected him with Abdul Bangura, player, used to play for us with Atlanta FC, played for our Liga Lawrenceville U23s that went to the national final. Ricardo Montoya coached that team. Abdul's from Sierra Leone. Played here for Atlanta FC in the NPSL, then went to Sweden, played professionally there for a few years, came back to play for the Silverbacks, played double digits for the Sierra Leone national team. Like, one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. Coaches for Soccer in the Streets now, coaches for a number of organizations, works in Clarkston specifically with a number of refugees. Abdul is great people. I loved hearing his take on everything, and he is seriously one of the good guys in Atlanta soccer, so I was happy to see him highlighted in the piece. And Abdul's a guy who's going to be very, very successful. I think he'll end up being a great coach as he continues to grow in the game. LB Foubert says, historically, deposits have converted to season ticket holders at a fairly high rate, which makes me wonder if they reconsider their plans for a 22,000-seat stadium. You've got the time to now. I mean, they actually got another year to really think about it, but I don't know how much more room you have there is the thing. Like, you might be able to squeeze a little bit more, but you're not getting to 30. So it's what we've said for years now. These teams that are coming into the league have to start looking at minimum 30,000 seats. You can't look at a 20,000 seater anymore, and that's a good thing. But you create this problem. You can't fulfill the demand. And it's good to have the demand, but you can't fulfill it. So what's that going to do? The people who miss out are probably going to disappear. That's not good. You got to figure that out. I think you can't start anything less than 30 anymore. These stadiums have to be bigger. And they have to figure out using the big venue where they can. Do that sometimes. I have no problem with that. I know it's weird, and I know it's not the best situation in the world, but if you're in a 25 to 30,000 seater and you've got the demand a few times a year to fill the NFL venue in town, and it works for soccer, and it's wide enough, and you can make it work, do it. It's okay. People will be okay with that. I guess there's always this idea that it's like it's off-putting or whatever. Do it. You got to make financial sense. Obviously, you can't go rent the venue for more than you're going to make in the day on revenue. But if you can get there, go do it. Nashville, they're building a 30,000 seater. If the demand is there for the season opener or a rivalry game with Cincinnati or Atlanta to play at Nissan a few times a year. Do it. It's worth it if the financials make sense. Do it because it can help you grow, and it can help expose it to those casual fans that you're trying to convert. Okay. Burn says, the whole casual fans is weird to me. Most fans anywhere in the world are casual fans if you compare to ultras. And yes, any team anywhere in the world needs casual fans. Absolutely, you do. I'm not looking at it as much as casual fans to ultras. It's more of season ticket holders to non-season ticket holders, I think is maybe the better way to put it from at least an American perspective. And season ticket holders to me are not casual because they've bought in, they've invested. And they might not be hardcore fans in the sense that they grew up playing and they've coached and they watch all the games around the world. No, but they're invested with their time and their money in a season ticket. That takes it past casual to me. It's not thinking about a supporters group or an ultra side. I'm leaving that to the side. It's more of are they a season ticket holder or are they not? And I think you're going to run into some problems with some of these teams that just can't fulfill the people who are new and want to learn and want to get on board because they can't get in the building. And, watch parties only do so much.
In St. Louis, the last time that the Dome downtown hosted a soccer match was August of 2013. Real Madrid and Internazionale played in front of 54,000, a record for a soccer match in St. Louis.
Do it. Play there. Play there a few times. Toto Dynamo on Ellis. Ellis' case is ... what it is. We all thought that money would help bring in Mateo Barnovich from Instituto in Cordoba in Argentina. But now that story might change too. I didn't know that. It's a pity things have been managed so badly here. Same thing might happen with Manotas next year. You let those guys get into the last year of your contract, you can't get max value. You've got to be able to sell when the time is right, and they missed that window on Ellis, and it looks like they're missing the window on Manotas, and yeah. It hurts because then you can't add the replacements you want. And when people talk about, I don't want a team that's going to be selling its players so regularly here, you have to be able to stay on top. Soccer's different in that way. If you don't, you run into this situation, and with MLS rules, they're not going to get much of a return. They're not going to get much of an advantage. They're not going to get any allocation money out of this. So they're losing a player, not getting really much of anything back. It's going to hamper them in being able to go get somebody else. You can get a like-for-like replacement for their slot in the roster, but you didn't make money on this deal, so you're not going to have as much to spend, just in general. So now what? You have to do it the right times to have the resources. And this is not just an MLS thing. We're seeing it with Barcelona right now. You've got so many older players that you can't move right now. You can't bring in new talent. It happens. You have to move players at the right time. MLS is not the ultimate destination for every player right now. When the time is right, sell. And then go reinvest. And I think Atlanta is a prime example of a team that has done that well. Barco coming in, the idea, and this is pre-COVID, and it could be different because of it, and there's nothing you could do to expect it. But Barco being sold for a profit is what the expectation was. You had more money to work with after selling Miguel Almiron. So you brought Barco in before because you expected that. It paid off. You haven't sold Barco yet. You went and you spent money on Pitti. You made a profit on it, even in this time. You're looking like you're going to go and spend not the same amount, less on Moreno, and Moreno might be a guy who sticks for a while. You're spending less than that. You still got the Barco money to come in here at some point. I don't think you're going to lose money on Barco. I'm leaving the salary question out of it because, yes, you get that recouped as well. But you're going to bring that money back into the club that then you could spend on whoever's next. Like, you've been able to consistently have resources to work with. Houston is not even just getting into the decisions being right or wrong. They're not going to have as much resources to work with. And it's going to be a problem. I'm totally with Burned in that Philadelphia needs to play in the Link a few times a year. They did that really early as their stadium was being built, and they need to do it now. There was some talk about it at one point, and they did not do it. They need to. They really, really need to. I'm so on board with that. San Jose playing at Stanford, it's perfect. They need to do those things a few times. Ricky says, having an alternate stadium seems like a cool idea if I'm a fan of a small stadium team and the demand is there. Don't have that here, and you have the best of both worlds here because you can make the stadium a little smaller, but you have a big stadium. It's the same place. Other teams, don't be afraid of it. Do it. Do it, do it, do it. All right. We've went 30 minutes over. That's what happens sometimes. There's a lot of stuff to talk about.
Keep an eye on those plucky upstarts at Liverpool, as Nathan Pugh says. Liverpool has signed Thiago. Now they have an eye on Diogo Jota of Wolves, apparently, according to Sky.
Okay, that was a new one. I'd seen that there was talk that he might be leaving. So, yeah, Liverpool's looking to throw some money around. Maybe they do need some new faces to shake things up a little bit. Be very, very interesting to see how that goes down. One other thing to keep an eye on in the UK, and I'm going to drop this in at the end, and we'll talk about it more probably on the Power Hour tomorrow. Matt Hughes at the Daily Mail. The whole idea of the championship, the EFL teams needing money from the Premier League wants to tie it to a salary cap. And there's reasons why on both sides. I mean, if you're going to give them that much money, you don't want them to blow it. Teams that had $70 million or £70 million wage bills like West Brom, Swansea, Stoke. The Premier League doesn't want to subsidize that. The Premier League would be, the teams that are in the Premier League now would benefit if they have an $18 million proposed annual cap because it's going to be harder for them to stay up when they come in. So it helps the teams that are already there. I get that for sure. But if you're going to give somebody money to bail them out, usually there's going to be strings attached to it.
Yeah.
So I understand that side as well. 18 is maybe a little too low, but if that's your starting number, okay, figure it out. You do have the caps in League 1 and League 2, and they're 2.5 and 1.5. The championship's going to have to be bigger than 18, in my opinion, but I don't know where the number settles. That's going to be a negotiation to watch because the EFL needs the money now, as they've said. They need it today. They needed it yesterday. Southend is now a club to keep an eye on. They've been given 6 weeks to settle a tax bill of £490,000. I'm assuming they don't have that lying around.
No, the GoFundMe currently has £493 in it.
It's going to take them a while to get to $490,000. We shall see, but that's another one to keep an eye on. So a lot of things to keep an eye on today. We'll be back with the run-up at 7 o'clock. We'll get deep into Atlanta and Miami tactics, lineups, et cetera, et cetera. Tomorrow morning, Power Hour at 10 o'clock. Tomorrow we'll be on the air for radio at 6 o'clock. Game will kick off just a little after 7. It's a local broadcast, so it'll be 7:06, 7:07 kickoff. And we'll have the full-time report for an hour afterwards. And all of our radio stuff will be on 92.9 The Game, 92.9thegame.com, the radio.com app, the Atlanta United app, and the game will be on Sirius XM FC. So for a few hours, we're going to take a break. We'll be back at 7. Thanks for hanging out with us. Mucha platiel.
Mucha platiel.